What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Game Week 33 deadline stream. First of all, let me just quickly check if everything is working fine. I am live. Do let me know if you can hear me. Do let me know if you can see me. Don't want to spend about 15 minutes talking to a blank screen and kind of not really going anywhere with it. But yeah, hello to all of you. Welcome to the stream. I think it's going to be an interesting one again. Very excited. I've gone a bit aggressive. Maybe might be a bit stupid, I think, for a lot of people. But I think going a bit aggressive, thinking about Liverpool and expecting them to do well against West Ham, I know it's going to be a tricky game. But I'll talk about my team. I'll talk about my transfers. I hope you are also ready with your teams and your transfers. In case if you have any questions regarding your Gaming 33, 34 team in terms of your planning, maybe you're on a wildcard this week. Maybe you just have free transfers, but you have like a bench boost chip or some sort of chip available, which is kind of making your decisions very tricky. So please do feel free to add any questions, any comments, anything that you want to maybe check if you want to beat me or maybe somebody else in your mini league. Maybe a rival of yours is very close in your league and you're kind of falling behind and you want to beat that particular person. So we'll kind of break down each and every player, each and every pick, and I'll help you kind of make sure that we come out on top. But I think we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, feel free to add any questions, anything that you want to check. We've had information regarding all the double game weeks of the season now, so everything is right in front of us. So we have a double in game week 34, we have a double in game week 36 when Newcastle and Brighton are doubling, and then we also have a double in game week 37, which is pretty much expected, which is kind of taking care of teams who did blank in game week 32. So you have your Chelsea, you have your Brighton, you have your United and City who have a double that week. So make sure that you're aware of the double game weeks coming ahead. Make sure that you're aware in terms of which teams are doubling, and then kind of start your planning in terms of what kind of players you can go for, what kind of picks you can go for. Of course, there are going to be certain options, there are going to be certain players who are very popular or maybe will become popular by game week 34, because a lot of people are considering the fact whether they should go for a Salah this week or not, because the fact that they have a Kane, for example. We also have Arsenal options. I mean, we should not forget that Arsenal's still a very good attack, probably the top two attack in the Premier League right now. And they can, of course, they can concede goals because they have been conceding goals since Saliba got injured. But I think there's always a possibility that, Arsenal can score a couple of goals in there. And I think they can absolutely do really well. And I think that should be absolutely fine. But we need to temper our expectations in terms of which players are we going for. We need to understand the risk that we're taking, because I understand the risk that I have taken this week. I don't have Kane in my team this week. It's against United. Now you can draw parallels in terms of whether they'll be leggy. Now Tottenham has also sacked their caretaker manager or whatever that was, and now they again can have a manager bounce. Of course, they probably didn't have a manager bounce in the last time around, but that also is probably a factor. But Tottenham have looked absolutely rubbish. United could also struggle, considering the fact that we have so many options we have so many players basically who are injured at the moment. We can struggle in defense. Maybe Luke Shaw saves us by playing a ball playing centre back. You never know. We'll see what happens there. But I think it's a tricky game to call. I still feel United, Tottenham, both teams are going to concede, and I think United may not keep a clean sheet in that one. So yeah, I mean that's that. But I think we need to be aware of the risks that we're taking. We need to be mindful of the fact that yes, we are taking the likes of Martinelli, maybe Saka. Of course, I've spoken about the Arsenal defense and the fact that they can concede, but all of these players can absolutely haul and absolutely return. And I think at least for this week, if not 34, I think the ownership is still going to be pretty high. So let's see. I think we just need to be aware that these are the risks that we take, and I think it's very important to be comfortable with the fact in terms of what transfers you're making and why you're making them. It's just not the fact, or it just shouldn't be the case where everybody's doing it, so I'll also do it. You should be comfortable with the fact that maybe you're taking out Kane. So I am comfortable with the fact that I have taken out Kane. Of course, I've got Greenwood. I've taken an additional hit, which is basically a -8. Now you may think that a -8 might look very stupid in a week where it's not even a double game week, and the double game week is next week, right? But there is a lot of planning involved, and I'll kind of walk you through my team as well. But yeah, this is the team I have, and this is the direction that I'm kind of looking at, because I have other moves to make as well in game week 34. I think that could be really interesting as well. Start Grealish or March. I think I'll. It's a tricky one because benching Grealish, it doesn't really sound fine. I mean, you would expect City to score goals, and I'm personally expecting Grealish to start this one because Foden is still getting into the team. He's still getting more minutes, and I still think it's a very big game. It's probably the game of the season, right? It's probably the title decider, and I think Grealish, with because of the fact that he's been starting a lot of games, he has been a regular mainstay in that Man City attack on the left side. So I think there's definitely a chance that he starts. So I don't think so. Minutes is a problem there. Of course, it's Arsenal at the end of the day, and they. I mean, it's gonna be a slightly tricky game. It's not gonna be that straightforward. But I still feel if you have somebody like a Mitoma, for example, maybe a McAllister, for example, I think you're kind of covering that Brighton risk or the Brighton ownership, and I think you can get away with maybe benching March. But if you don't have a second Brighton attacker, I think maybe start March ahead of Grealish. It's a better fixture for March, that is for sure. But again, if you have somebody like a Mitoma or McAllister, then I would say go for the Grealish. I think it's worth the risk. I think there is potential in Grealish, and I think there's potential in Man City as a whole, considering that Saliba's still not going to play in this game, and I think Arsenal will struggle in attack, and I think it could be in defense, sorry, and I think it could be a great game, especially the fact if let's say we see an early goal, I think it could be like a high scoring game, and really looking forward to the game. Hey Akshat, hello to you. Will you bring in Edison for Raya? Yeah, barring I already have Grealish and Haaland. I think so. That's the decision that you have to take. Either you go triple Man City attack. In case if you're chasing, I think triple Man City attack is also a great, uh, you know, it's basically a great option to kind of look at. Now, in case if you're not doing that, in case if you're not going attacking, and in case if you want to safeguard a defender, I think Edison is probably the best option to go for. It's a bit tricky to understand or to see which defender otherwise you can go for, because you always have that possibility of even a Ruben Diaz getting benched, despite of him starting games, despite of him being a very important or integral part of the Man City defense. I think there's still a lot of potential for any of those defenders to get benched. So I think the safest is still, going with somebody like an Edison, because he's definitely going to start in goal. Yes, with Edison, you don't get a lot of upside because he doesn't make a lot of saves, and that's because the fact that Man City don't concede a lot of chances, they don't concede a lot of a lot of shots as well. So I think Edison is safe in terms of minutes, but yeah, I mean the upside is not that high. Having said that, it's not that the other Man City defenders have a higher upside, right? I mean, yes, you can always go get a goal from a set piece, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. There's a lot to gain here, even if we go for a defender. So I think Edison is absolutely fine. Hey, Kevin, hello to you. I'm having a dilemma and take -4 for Kane and Saka out, Jota and Salah in. I think it depends on whether you want to go a little bit aggressive or just play Kane and Saka, because Kane and Saka in isolation are absolutely fine picks. Kane is against United. Kane has been in really, really good form. So I think there is still potential to, stick with Kane and get his points. It's absolutely fine. And Man City has also shown tendencies to, concede goals. So Saka in isolation is also okay. You don't have to sell them. But I personally feel if you're going a bit aggressive, I think getting in Jota and Salah right now, considering that Jota's ownership is still going to be slightly lower, by 34, if Jota really gets a big haul, right? This particular week, I think his ownership is going to skyrocket because people are looking for that second or that third striker, considering that a lot of them would be taking out Kane. So everybody's looking for an alternative here instead of Kane, and I think Jota is going to be a very popular option. So that's an absolute risk because you are letting go of popular players, but I think there is potential in going a bit aggressive, and again, it depends on your position as well, on your rank as well. In case if you're protecting rank, you stick with Kane and Saka. In case if you're going a bit aggressive and if you're basically chasing in the game, whether it's chasing rank or whether it's chasing positions in your mini leagues, I think I personally would do the Jota and Salah move. Though I've not taken Jota in this team in this particular week, and I have Salah, but of course Jota would be my transfer next week. But I think going aggressive, it's a fine move to make. Took a -4 this week. Salah and Isak for Saka and Kane. That's absolutely fine. That's just what kind of I was talking about. I think Isak is also a great option. It sets you up well for game week 36 as well when Newcastle have a double. Plus, of course, it's decent fixtures around that. And I think Isak has really made the Newcastle attack really, really good. So I think there's a lot of potential in Isak right now. His ownership is also very low. And before it kind of gets to a point where he doesn't really make a difference. I mean, I don't still think that his ownership is anyways going to be anywhere near a Trippier, for example. But I think there's still a lot of potential in his sack. So I think I should be fine. Grealish had a poor game against Sheffield. I still feel Grealish is still a part of that strong 11. And I think because of the fact that he has been playing really well, I think it's absolutely fine. I personally don't have a lot of issues in terms of Grealish, not getting minutes. There's a slight possibility that maybe, Maris plays on the left and Silva plays on the right. But I still think Grealish is a part of that important, of the strongest Man City 11 at the moment. And I think he will definitely play. Divaga, I did miss your question, but of course I'll take it right now. So Madison Saka out for Dikka Musala and Mitoma March. I think which one would you prefer among the Brighton mids? And yes, this is for a -4. I think for a -4 is absolutely fine. Still understanding that option. But I think if I'm going for a particular Brighton option, I think see Mitoma has been really good in terms of whatever we have been seeing in terms of eye test, because yes, he may not have the same numbers as a Soli March, but whenever we see him playing, there's always, I mean, he looks like a classy player. He looks like somebody who can make things happen from absolutely nothing, right? And if you've seen Brighton play, I think he's a very, very good option to go for. There is a lot of potential in Mitoma because he can score goals, he can provide assists. So there are multiple points outlets, to buying a Mitoma. Having said that, March has had better numbers. It just feels that Mitoma is probably a safer option, considering the fact, of course, I think that his ownership is going to be slightly higher. Also, the fact that March will always get you a massive haul, like a, let's say, like a 10, 12 pointer, then he maybe blanks for a couple of weeks. Mitoma is a player who, I mean, who will tick along, who will give you those 5, 6 pointers, 8 pointers, and if he scores a goal, if he gets an assist, that's a 10 pointer straight away, right? So I personally feel that Mitoma is still the better option. But again, if you're going aggressive, in case if you're chasing, I don't think so. March is still that high in terms of ownership, and I think he's probably the better option to go for. And I think Salah and either of March and Mitoma, I think that's a very strong combination. Though Madison has an easier fixture this time around. It's Leeds away. Leeds have really conceded a lot of goals. They are not really keeping any clean sheets. I mean, that's not even looking like a possibility at the moment. So yes, you are taking a risk, and of course, as I said with Saka as well, he can also score against Man City. So there is risk involved in this. But I think for a -4, if you are going aggressive, you absolutely do it. In case if you feel that Madison Saka maybe are okay considering my rank, and I don't want to lose spots because I still feel maybe not Madison, because Madison's anyways being sold by a lot of managers, and I think his ownership is also a lot lesser than Saka. But I think if you want to protect your ownership and protect your rank, I think Saka is absolutely fine. But there is potential with a Mo Salah and a Mitoma March combination to get by this week, and then really benefit from that particular combination. So if I was me, if this was my transfer suggestion or transfer move, I think I'll definitely make this move. Is going Kane to Martial crazy? I mean, Kane to Martial sounds crazy because of the fact that he doesn't stay fit. So, I mean, if not Martial, I'll probably get Solanke. I know Solanke is not a double game week player, but I think there's still potential. If this is a free hit, I'm sorry, if this is a bench boost team. So let's say if you're bench boosting in 34, for example, I think Solanke is an absolutely fine option. You don't have to go. Martial is risky because the fact that you may want to double up on Fernandes. I still don't think Fernandes is going to be fine by Game Week 34 because he was seen in crutches. I think in a picture that his wife posted on Instagram. Now that may or may not be a long-term injury, etc. But I still think there is potential to maybe go a bit differential. I still think there are better options than a Martial, considering the fact that we have the likes of Isak, Watkins, we have Solanke as well. There's Haaland, so there are options to go for. Even if you're thinking, I've not even mentioned Jota right now. So there are definitely better options in terms of not going for Martial, going for somebody else. Martial is just somebody who can get injured, even if he's not injured, even if he's not fit, right? There might be very limited minutes and he may not start both games. So it's a huge risk. I mean, I personally won't take it because of the fact that there are alternatives available. If so, I'll do Kane to Martial plus Saka to Salah this week. I mean, it's a risk. With Martial, it's a risk because you may transfer him this week. He may give you a fixture this week. But then if next week he gets injured, then you have to make an additional move, an additional transfer. You may have to take a hit for it, which is not ideal. But I mean, yeah, if you're okay with that sort of risk, I mean, you go for it. But I still look for a different way or an alternative way to get in Salah in my team. Get Isak or Martial for Kane this week. Definitely Isak. Better option, more nailed for minutes. I think more fitter option. And just, I mean, with United, we've seen that, Rashford is scoring a lot of goals. It's not that Martial is suddenly going to bang in hat tricks. With Isak, it's still a possibility that if Newcastle score 3 or 4 goals or even 2 or 3 goals, Isak is probably getting 1 or 2 of them, right? So I think Isak definitely the better option. Yes, he doesn't double in 34 or in 37, but he does double in 36. So he's definitely giving you a double game week fixture. He's giving you more nailness, and I think he's the better option outright. Madison Saka out for, I've answered this. Think of going Kane, Bruno to Isak, Salah and ignoring Trent. I mean, it's fine. You can get away with not having Trent this week. next week as well. I mean, depending on how results go this week, I think Liverpool is still a tricky team to depend on, especially when we are thinking of clean sheets, because the fact that they are conceding goals. It's West Ham away, which is definitely a fixture where Liverpool can concede goals because West Ham has suddenly sprung to life. They are playing really well, they are attacking, and I think they will be safe. Plus, of course, they're scoring a lot of goals. So I think it doesn't really spell well for a Trent or Liverpool defense in general. Then in 34 as well, right? It's Spurs and Fulham. Spurs, it's still a bit tricky to predict what's going to happen with them. But I think Fulham is a very attacking side. I don't think so. They no way where they know defensive football at all. So there is definitely potential for maybe not even a single clean sheet, right? But again, when you're talking about Trent, you're not really talking about only clean sheets. That's the reason we're not talking about a Konate or we're not talking about a Van Dijk. Robertson has also becoming an option just because the fact that Trent is is not approachable. A lot of people cannot afford Trent. That's why they are going for Robertson. I don't necessarily see any reason of people choosing a Robertson over a Trent right now. Trent is playing in a midfield role. He's playing in a slightly more central role. So he's getting a lot more of the ball. He's putting in a lot of crosses. He's also, he's in a position where he can also create a lot of big chances. He can get assists. Of course, we know that he can, score goals from free kicks, etc. So there's a lot of potential with Trent. It's also spelling good for his bonus points potential as well. So I think that is the whole reason why Trent is a really good option. And I understand that people might ignore Trent. He's also very expensive, so you might have to do a lot of shifting around to get in Trent in your team. And if you can't make that surgery, it's absolutely fine. You look for other alternative options to go for. I mean, again, as with other positions, right? There are multiple options you can choose from, especially in terms of your defense as well. So Trent is not a must-have, though his ownership in 34 is going to be very, very high. And I think 34 definitely looks like a week where he can get those 10, 12 points. So if not Trent, maybe try to cover, Liverpool with maybe a Robertson. But again, let's just, if you're not making this move this week, it's absolutely fine. See one more or get one more week of information and then take a call what you want to do in 34. Salah, Trent, Martial for Kane, Zinchenko, Fernandez. I think it's a good. I'm not sure how many hits. Maybe, I mean, worst case scenario, it's probably a -4. Otherwise, it's a -8. I think it's still fine. Kane, Zinchenko, Fernandez. Fernandez may be injured. Zinchenko is not having any double game weeks. Plus the fact that Arsenal are conceding goals, and I think Kane is absolutely replaceable. I've seen a lot of people saying that Kane is not a sell etc. this week. I personally think Kane is absolutely fine. I mean, you can absolutely sell him. There is a higher upside with going with a different option with a different forward. There's a risk for sure because he can score against United. His ownership is going to be slightly higher, so you may lose out on points, etc. I understand all those arguments, but I still feel there is potential to be gained here right now this week as well because the fact that Salah's ownership is also not going to be as high as it will be in Gaming 34. Whatever the result says, in Gaming 33 for Liverpool and Salah, I still feel a lot of people are going to bet on him in Gaming 34. I think you can take that 1 week advantage and go a week early, and I think it's absolutely worth a hit. I mean, it's also the fact that we need to temper our expectation in terms of hits because it's always felt to us, or it always feels like taking hits is maybe not ideal. It's not going to pay off in a week, etc. Of course, it may not pay off in 1 week, but then you have a double in 34, and Salah is Salah, right? He's gotten to this form where he's scoring a lot of goals. Liverpool at home are a really really good side. If they can kind of shore up their away performances, I think Salah is going to be absolutely fine. Salah has missed a couple of penalties, so there are rumors, there are conversations that he may not be on pens, but I don't think so that's going to happen. I think he's the main attacker for Liverpool. His goal contributions are, I think, slightly more than 50% for Liverpool. So that shows that after, whenever Liverpool are scoring 2 goals or 1 goal or whatever, that, I mean, he's going to be involved in half of those attacking returns, right? That's a very high number for an attacker. And I think going Salah is absolutely fine. Salah plus Martial or Gakpo plus Jota. Salah plus Martial is still the better combination because Salah is still better than a Gakpo or a Jota. I would still say Martial is still a bit tricky because they're probably better options. Maybe Isak is still a better option than Martial. Less double game weeks, but I think with Martial the risk is minutes, and he may not play majority minutes. So even if you have a double game week, you may not get a double game week, right? If you know what I mean. So I think Salah plus an Isak, Salah plus a Solanke is still a better option than a Gakpo plus a Jota. With a Gakpo and a Jota, there's always a risk in terms of minutes. With Salah, you're not going to get that. I don't think so. Salah is going to get rested. Also because the fact that Liverpool are still playing for top four and Salah is their main attacker. So I don't necessarily see any scenario where Salah gets rested. Who should I replace Zuma with? Have 2.2 million in the bank. My other defenders are Shaw, Estupinian, Trippier, Botman. You already have Salah. I mean, Zuma is 4.4 if I'm not wrong. So you'll have 6.6 million in the bank. I mean, you can go for a. I'm not sure whether you have Edison or not. Maybe you can go for a Man City defender. It's still a risk because there's still some rotation expected in that Man City defense. But yeah, he's definitely an option. Because the fact that you already have Trippier and Botman, I don't think so. Newcastle needs to be looked at. There is Shaw as well, Estupinan as well. You've got the bases covered in terms of going for the best options. I don't even, if it's 6.6, I don't even think Robertson becomes an option because Robertson's also slightly higher in terms of price. I think he's 6.8. Yeah, he's 6.8. Van Dijk is 6.6, but I don't think so. Getting Van Dijk is worth it. I think there are better options. I mean, with Van Dijk, you're more likely just depending on clean sheets, right? And I just spoke about the fact that Liverpool may not keep a lot of clean sheets. Also, in the double, there is a possibility that Liverpool doesn't even keep a single clean sheet, right? And Van Dijk doesn't even come close to attacking threat when we talk about a Trent. Maybe Robertson, you can argue because Robertson has not been that great. He's not been the same Robertson as we've seen over the past couple of years. So there's an argument to be made there. But I think, yeah, I mean, 6.6, Man City is the only team that is, jumping out in terms of going for a particular option. Otherwise, yeah, I probably, because the overall structure of the defense is absolutely fine. So that's probably the only direction I look at. Why you still have Madison? I didn't make the Madison to Rashford switch because a lot of people are selling Madison. I've kept Madison. The fixture is really good. Leeds are a very bad defense at the moment. Madison in particular and Leicester, I think they're absolutely okay in terms of attack, and I think there is potential for Leicester to get in a couple of goals at least. Now, whether Madison gets involved in them or not, I think he trained and I think he should be fine. That's number one. So that injury is not, I think, really a big concern. It was a slight illness, and I think he should be fine. Now, there might be some points to be gained here with Madison. I've kept him for a very, very long time. I think this is definitely the last week I'm keeping him. I could have argued, or I could have, made a case for doing a Madison to a Rashford switch, but I just feel I wanted Trent and Salah in, for this particular fixture. I think there is, yes, West Ham away looks like a tricky fixture, but I think there is potential with Trent playing in that new position. It's also affected Salah's games and Salah's performances in recent games, and he has looked quite, a lot more attacking than his usual self. So I think this is probably a fixture to target, and that's the chance I've taken or the risk I've taken. Now, Rashford can hurt me because of slightly higher ownership. A lot of people did sell him. Now they're kind of getting him back. It's Tottenham, so the defense is questionable. The Tottenham defense is definitely questionable. But United have also not looked that great in attack. Rashford is coming back from injury, so maybe his minutes are slightly managed. Again, depends on game state, depends on what United is doing, how Rashford is feeling. I still feel that he's going to start because it's a very tricky game. It's probably, you know it's a game against a direct top four competitor. So I think Rashford definitely starts this one. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about his performance, United's performance, and his overall minutes. And that's the reason I've not taken an additional hit for it, because that transfer would have been for a hit, right? And I probably think that keeping Madison is absolutely fine this week. The reason I sold Saka was that I anyways was planning to sell Arsenal players. I think getting in Salah was the right move there. How about removing Tony for Isak for a -8 on top of the above transfer? I mean, Chelsea have looked quite poor in defense, and I think Tony can definitely score against Chelsea. He has a decent record against top teams, against big teams, and I know it's an away fixture for Brentford, but I think Chelsea is still struggling to kind of make things work. And I mean, they have hardly anything to play for, right? Champions League is lost. Europe is also lost. So I don't think so. There's any motivation. Plus, there could be a lot of rotation that also kind of spells trouble when we don't have a settled squad. And I think, personally, I won't take a hit for Isak. It's not that. I mean, Isak is against Everton. It's an away fixture. Everton, you could argue that Everton are slightly stronger at home. But I think I personally won't take an additional hit for it. If this was probably for a free transfer, I'll do it. But not for an additional hit. Salah, Trent, Martial. I think I've answered this. Sorry for skipping the question, but I think I did. I did answer this. Ryo Iverson. I mean, Leeds can still score, and Leicester haven't kept a single clean sheet since Game Week 17, since the FPL restart, which was right after the World Cup. So I'm not very high, or not very hopeful of a Leicester clean sheet. And I think, Raya could absolutely smash it, maybe make a few saves because Chelsea are, taking a lot of shots, and he may just get a clean sheet because Chelsea can't finish. Their strikers, I mean, if they have one, can't finish. And I think Raya is absolutely fine. I think that's the reason I've chosen Raya, because I personally feel Raya has a higher chance of keeping a clean sheet. Again, not a very popular opinion, but I personally do think that Raya has a slightly higher chance of keeping a clean sheet than a Kepa at the moment. Bench one, Martin, Rashford, Kane. Very tricky, very very tricky. If I'm benching one, I'd probably bench Martinelli, but I know Martinelli can score. So does Rashford and Kane. They have that potential. So I think I'll still bench Martinelli, but very reluctantly. I think you can bench anyone. You can make a case of benching any of these players, but I think I'll still bench Martinelli. Also start Alisson or Guaita. Guaita is back in the matchday squad now. Whether he starts or not, I'm not very very sure. And Alisson is again, it's West Ham away. It's a tough call. I probably just start put in Guaita in it, and I'll see what happens if Guaita, because I'm not expecting Guaita to come on. In terms of that goalkeeper spot, I'd hardly think that that's going to happen. So, you can just start with Guaita. If he gets benched, it's fine. You anyways will get Allison. Allison's not a preferred choice this week because of the fact that West Ham can definitely concede. So I think, yeah, I'll just start Guaita and just see what happens there. I decided to go for Saka to Salah, Kane to Isak. That's absolutely fine. Good moves this week. Fernandes is injured. Yeah, that's what I saw as well. So I might have missed out on a particular timeline if we do have, uh, with regards to Fernandes. So if you know a particular timeline, whether there's something out in the press conference or any comments by Ten Hag, maybe I would have definitely missed those. But yeah, in case if you have anything, do let me know. But yeah, I think that he is injured and he's gonna be injured for some. Looks like it's gonna be maybe missing at least one, if not 2 weeks, 2 game weeks, or two particular matches. Let's see. I'll just quickly check if there is something on Fernandez. So it's better to have that information. A lot of people are selling Fernandez because of that picture, and I think, yeah, it's still not a confirmed thing in terms of for how long is he ruled out. Yep. Yeah, I don't think so. He's going to play anyway in game week 33. So that, you can definitely make a case of moving him out and then going for other options. There are a lot of variety of options you can choose from in midfield, and I think there are better picks out there. So should I play Shaw or Botman? I think Botman has a better fixture and a higher chance of keeping a clean sheet. Everton, they don't score a lot of goals. So you can get away with the clean sheet there. With Shaw, I think he's going to play, and maybe he's going to play in that, you know, ball playing centre back sort of a role. So that doesn't really spell great for his attacking potential, especially for his assist potential. But yeah, because of the fact that he now may complete a lot more passes than usual, I think that could still be okay for his bonus points potential, especially if it's a very close game like a 1-0 of sorts, right? He can definitely get into bonus points. So I'll still take my chance with the Botman because I think there's a higher potential for a clean sheet in there. I think that would be my call. Would you start Grealish or McAllister? Again, if you have a second Brighton attacker already playing, let's say a Mitoma already playing, I'll take my chances on a Grealish. If not, with McAllister is still slightly easier because of the fact that there are potential rumors that he may play in a deeper role, and yeah, if he plays slightly deeper in midfield, I think you can easily bench him and play Grealish this week. Can I bench Kane? Of course, you can bench Kane, but it depends on who other players or which other players are you starting, or what other players are there in your 11. But yeah, benching Kane still looks a bit. It sounds a bit off because the fact that he's the main man for Tottenham in attack. If Tottenham are going to score goals, I think it's going to come through Kane. United have shown weaknesses in their defense. We don't have our first choice defense. It's a makeshift defense, and if Maguire's playing, Kane gets a hat trick, I won't be surprised. But yeah, I'll probably look at other options or benching other options. I think Kane would definitely not be my first priority. Bench Kane for Saka. I still think I'll place Kane ahead of Saka. Or sell Kane to Isak and bring Salah. I'm okay doing Kane to Isak and then, Saka to Salah. I think it's absolutely fine. I know a lot of people are considering this move next week, which is also okay. But yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of the risks that you're taking because Kane can, of course, score, but so does, Isak does have that potential as well. And I think Salah to Saka or Saka to Salah is absolutely fine. I think you can absolutely do it. McAllister may be starting in a deeper role. That's what I mentioned. There's a high possibility that he does. And if he does, I think it's not really great for his overall points potential. And I think, you can bench him, you can take him out if you want to. But yeah, I mean, I think Mitoma and March are still better picks in terms of the Brighton midfield. Who do you start out of Guehi, Pinnock, and Konate? I think I'll definitely bench Konate because West Ham can score and Konate doesn't really have any attacking threat. Guehi and Pinnock is an interesting one. I think, it's pretty close between both, but I think I'll still take my chances with maybe Gohi because Wolves, they don't generally score a lot of goals. They've been scoring okay. They have been playing a lot better in attack in the recent games, but I think I still take my chances with Gohi and I can start Gohi and bench Pinnock and Konate. Hey Nigel, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. It's either Mac playing striker or I still don't think so. Mac is going to play in that striker position. I think there are other options, and I think he's a better fit in terms of playing in that midfield role because he's not a clinical finisher, right? And Brighton would depend on that particular option to finish, and we've seen that he gets big chances and he does miss those big chances as well. So I think, yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the guy who Deserby mentioned that he will play, but I think if he plays in an attacking midfield role, that pushes Mac to not number nine, but in a slightly deeper position in the center of midfield. That's my assumption, and I think the possibility of that happening is a lot higher. Plus, as I said, McAllister is not a natural finisher, right? So I think a lot of that, a lot of the attacking plays, a lot of goal scoring or attacking threat would probably come from March and Mitoma anyway. So I think I like him in the slightly more attacking mid role, not necessarily in the number nine role or even in the slightly deeper position. But I personally feel he's gonna play in a slightly more deeper or a withdrawn role. Will you play both Trippier and Botman this week? I can't play because of the fact that they're facing Everton. Everton don't really score a lot of goals. It's an away fixture for Everton, for Newcastle, sorry. And I mean, Newcastle definitely can score. Now they can also keep a clean sheet. Their defensive record is definitely a lot better at home than away. So there is more potential if they're playing at home in terms of keeping clean sheets. So if it's a home fixture, I think I'll be a little more comfortable doubling up on the Newcastle defense. But I think even if it's an away fixture, it's Everton at the end of the day. Yes, they're struggling and they're still kind of fighting to get out of the relegation zone. But I think it's probably going to be a clean sheet game for Trippier and your second Newcastle option. And I think playing Trippier and Botman together is also absolutely fine. Who to bench this week? Kepa, Raya. I'll bench Kepa. I'll play Raya. Estupinian, Shaw, Botman. That's the three-man back. March, Grealish, Rashford, Watkins. So is this a 3-4-3? So basically it's benching Kepa, playing Raya, Estupinian, Shaw, Botman. If it's benching one of these options, I'm not sure. I didn't understand the question. If you can just clarify that for me. Is it benching? How many players need to be benched in this? That'll be helpful. Otherwise, out of all these options, I think probably Botman is the only option I'll think of benching again, considering you have a third different defender. I think March, Grealish, Rashford, Watkins are all absolutely fine plays to play or have in your playing 11 this week. Would you play Botman or Shaw? I'll still take my chances with Botman. I think there's more potential for a clean sheet in there. On a wildcard, I'm planning to use triple captain in Game Week 34 on Haaland. That's great. Johnston may lose his place, so I probably won't pick him on a wildcard. I think if I'm going for a wildcard combination, I'll take my chances with Iverson. I know Iverson is not great, but I still think Iverson does help you with saving some money. I think Johnston. I think if Guaita comes back, I think Johnston is definitely going to lose his place. So I'm not very very sure about spending that additional money on a Johnston. So I'll take my chances with Iverson. You already have Edison, who's a fine pick. Then Trippier Stones is again a slightly tricky option because he may get benched. He may be preferred in the Champions League games. It's going to be a tough tie anyway. But I think, you can say that with any or for any of the Man City defenders, right? Any of them can easily get benched, and it'll be a tricky call. If I was going for one of the options in that Man City defense option, I think I'll still take my chances with the Ruben Diaz. Though having said that, he can also get benched, and you may end up regretting that move. But I think if I'm going for an option, I'll take my chances with the Ruben Diaz. Or I don't have to go for double Man City defense because the fact that I can go for double Man City attack, right? I'll rather take my chances. See, if benching is anyways a headache, I'll still take my chances with an attacker because the upside there is a lot higher, right? We've seen I mean, we've generally seen that players like a Diaz, players like Akanji, Stones, or anyone else in the Man City defense, the attacking upside is not very high this year. And I think I'd rather take my chances with the Mahrez or a Grealish or even a Foden. I mean, if I'm, really pushing my luck, I think those would be my options. And I'd rather go for double Man City attack than, doing double Man City defense. What's your plan next week? So I'm planning to take another set of hits next week. So this week I've taken a -8. It's a bit odd because the fact that I've had a good week and it may reset a lot of the good work that we did on a free hit. I think this is probably a chance to go a little bit aggressive because I have a little bit of safety net in terms of points, in terms of rank. And I personally, I felt my team was a little bit far off from what I wanted to be in Game Week 34. So I've made three moves this week. I've gotten Salah, I've gotten Greenwood as a Dutch striker, and then I've gotten Trent for a -8. And next week also it'll be a -8. I mean, the worst case scenario it'll be a -8. The best case scenario maybe a -4. But what I'm thinking for my team in Game Week 34 is basically to take out Madison, get in Rashford. So that covers off my United double. Then I'll probably take out. I mean, there are options that I can go for, but I'll probably take out Watkins. Again, not very, very happy with that particular option. And I have a, chance to maybe punt on a Jota, considering how Liverpool are playing this week, considering the minutes that we see from each Liverpool attacker, I might take a punt on Jota, but that'll be for an additional hit. And then I have to decide whether I need to, get in Edison and then complete the Man City try because they do have a double in 34, they do have a double in 37. Whether they keep clean sheets in, all four of those games, that's absolutely debatable. But then at least I'm giving myself an opportunity to get those clean sheet points if Edison, gets those clean sheet points. So I think, but yeah, that'll be for an additional hit as well. So I think those are the transfer plans. Ultimately, I'll be having 11 double game week players with another -8, and I think that's the ideal team that I had in mind. So yeah, let's see. It also, I think, will depend on injuries, maybe certain players losing their place. I still don't think so. It's going to happen with this particular team because most of these options are regular starters. But yeah, I mean, injuries, etc., could kick in. So we'll see. Kane and Saka to Salah and Isak, I'll do those moves. And if it's for free, I'll absolutely do those moves. But there's a risk involved, of course. Even if it's for a hit, I think I'll still take my chances. Any suggestions for my team? As I said, double Man City attack as opposed to double Man City defense is where I'll hedge my bets. Uh, Again, White also I'm not very sure of because I don't think so. If I'm going for an Arsenal option, I'll rather stick with a Martinelli and not go for White because I think Arsenal do have tricky fixtures and they can definitely concede. So I think I'll rather have my bets on a on a double Man City. I mean attack as I've already mentioned, and then double Newcastle defense because Newcastle are also having a double in 36. So I'll be having Trippier plus a Botman, for example, and then I can already do with Isak because this team already has Isak. Also, instead of Tony, I'll take my chances with the double game week player. I think I'll rather take my bets on a on a Jota, for example. I think it's still a better option. I think Jota is on a run, and I think whenever he is on a run, he scores a lot of goals. Klopp also will show a lot of confidence in him and will play him more regularly with Nunes coming off the bench, maybe sharing some 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes from the bench. So I'm comfortable there in terms of his minutes. I'm comfortable with his performances because he has been playing, really really good. He's been scoring a lot of goals. So I think yeah, I mean those would be the suggestions. I think the midfield is fine. Martinelli again is an option. I see Rashford as an option here, so that covers off the United double. Double Brighton at midfield is also absolutely fine. Then there's Salah as well. As I said, right? If you get in a Man City attacker, that will be your attacker in place of Martinelli, and I think that's where I will stick to in terms of the wildcard team. Start Grealish or March. I've answered this question, but in case if you have a Brighton attacker already playing, maybe somebody like a Mitoma already playing, I'll take my chance of the Grealish. Otherwise, I'll probably play March. I think that's where I am. Edison De Gea, City clean sheet record, not great. I mean, City clean sheet record, not great. And it's Arsenal. But again, it's David De Gea versus Tottenham. Kane can score against Tottenham. Out of both options aren't really great. Let's be honest. Both can concede goals. Both are playing. I mean, I would still consider Tottenham as a top team, and Tottenham are still fighting for that top four, right? So there might be some fight left in them, in spite of whatever's happened to them this season. And Kane has just been in great form. He's been scoring a lot of goals. So I think, yeah, I'll still expect both teams to score. But if there's slight chance for any of these teams to maybe get a clean sheet, I'd still take my bets on David De Gea, despite the Harry Maguire option playing and despite a bad defense playing. I still think that Arsenal can score against Edison. Yeah. I want to do Kane and Saka to Salah and Isak. The problem is that I have Ake in my squad. Should I make those two transfers or prioritize selling Ake for somebody? Again, if that is for somebody, I don't know who you will sell for because I don't know the other options in your team. But I think Kane and Saka out to Salah and Isak would still be my priority. I think they are. I mean, if not this week, then you make these moves next week because Salah and I mean Salah can do well. So I mean so can Saka. I think Saka even playing against a trickier Man City defense, I think Saka can score. But I think I'll still prioritize my moves this week to, get in a Salah a week earlier and then also get in Isak against a weaker Everton defense. On wildcard, Edison Odea as starting goalie. I think I still take my chances with Edison. He has doubles in 34, 37. So does David De Gea. But if I'm going with, unless this is a bench boost, combination of goalkeepers, I'll still take my chances with Edison plus an Iverson because with Iverson, I'll save some cash and then I can utilize that cash to make upgrades in defense, maybe get towards a Trent, to maybe upgrade my midfielders or even defenders, right? That could be the difference between a Solanke or an Isak, for example. And I think that difference is also pretty huge. So Edison for sure. On a wild card, I'll just do Iverson unless you're really going very heavy in terms of a bench boost in 34. If you had Kepa and Steele, would you use a goalkeeper transfer for the risk of having no starting goalkeeper? If you don't have any other moves to make, if your team is in actual really good shape, maybe you're wildcarding in 34, maybe you're free hitting in 34, maybe in that scenario, I'll make the move this week. But I think I'll still take my chances. Though it's not the ideal combination. Kepa does have a double coming up, and Steele also has maximum doubles. I still think Steele will probably be the first choice option, and Sanchez gets those cup games. But now the fact that cup games are not in there, I mean, you can argue that it could be a dogfight between both those options. So I mean, I still expect Steele to play more games, though he didn't start the Chelsea game. But I still think I'll take my chances unless I really have nothing to do. I'll make the move. Otherwise, I'll just take my chances with you know getting at least one fixture from both these keepers on any given week. What subs did you make this week? I'm assuming with subs you make transfers. So I got in Salah, I got in Trent, and I got in Greenwood because the fact that I couldn't afford a better move, and I think Greenwood for me is fine because I'm mostly going to play a 3-5-2 for most weeks, maybe a 4-4-2 in some weeks where there's more potential in defender. That does leave me in a slightly trickier position because then I have some benching headaches to kind of look after. But I think these are the moves that I made for a -8. On wildcard, Edison De Gea, I've mentioned. Edison first choice. Second would not even be David De Gea. I'll save money and go Edison. Hey Soumya, hello to you. Sorry, I didn't make it clear. Bench 3 out of these players. So it's benching 3 players, right? I was imagining how many players do I need to bench. So it's Estupinian, Shaw, Botman, March, Grealish, Rashford. Watkins won't bench Watkins for sure. I'll still take my chances and play Rashford. So the conversation now becomes Estupinian, Shaw, Botman, and March, right? I have to bench 3. So I'll definitely bench Botman because I'm assuming you'll have Trippier as your Newcastle cover. So that's one option. I can bench Shaw as well because I think Tottenham can score against Man United. United's defense hasn't looked that strong. Shaw, when he plays in a centre back role, I think it's still better than somebody like a Maguire. But I think it's gonna be Maguire, and it could be Maguire plus Shaw. It could be Maguire plus Lindelof. It could be Shaw plus Lindelof. But I think United can concede in the game, so I'm okay benching Shaw and Botman, and then it's probably a decision between March or Grealish, right? So in case if you have a Mitoma, you bench March and you play Grealish. In case if this is the only Brighton option, I think March definitely has the better, uh, fixture to go for, because Nottingham Forest are still, I think, the third worst side in terms of chances conceded, in terms of goals conceded, in terms of overall XG numbers, right? Overall defensive numbers, they aren't really great defense. Though their performances at home are slightly better, but then that's the attack that I'm talking about, right? They can score goals, they can be a lot more expressive, be a lot more attacking, because they can't be defensive at home. It's also a difficult place to visit. So I think yeah, I think there's still potential in your Brighton options getting a goal or two, because they will definitely play. I mean, Nottingham Forest will definitely play more attacking, more expansive than they generally do when they're traveling. Is Bruno playing? I don't think so. He's going to be out for this week. I don't think so. He's going to be playing. Kepa, Trippier, Estupinian, Trent, March, Mitoma, Grealish, Salah, Watkins, Haaland, for Kane to Solanke and Martinelli to Salah. I think they are good moves, even for a hit. It's a risk because it's Kane and Martinelli. They are slightly popular picks, and they can definitely score. Both of them can score because they have the fixtures that that can tell you that they can score goals. Even it's Man City, right? Even if it's Man City, I think Arsenal can score, because Arsenal are just that quality attack, and I think they can put up. I mean, it's a title deciding game for Arsenal, so I think they'll go absolutely all in and all for it. And I think it's going to be. I have a feeling it's going to be a very good game to watch and a high scoring game. So I think there's potential for the Arsenal attackers. So it's a risk, but I think I'll take that risk. I think there's more to be gained with a Salah, considering his ownership is going to be slightly lesser this week, and I think you can inch in a little bit of more performance from a Salah, considering the fact that a lot of people, a lot of managers are going to anyways jump on him in gaming 34, so that rank percentage gains etc might be lesser in 34. Which three do I start? Trippier, Botman, Shaw, Chilwell, Estupinian. I'll start Trippier because he lets me protect rank. I'll bench Botman. So basically, the three that I'll start would be, I think, Trippier, Estupinian for sure. That's then there's a decision to be made between Shaw and Chilwell. I mean, Chilwell is a very attacking option, is a good option, but Chelsea's defense, I'm not very sure. So I'll still take my chances with the Shaw. I know it's maybe a tougher fixture for Shaw, but I don't trust the Chelsea defense. I don't trust the Chelsea performances. I just have no faith in Chelsea, and I think they don't keep a clean sheet in this one. And I don't think so. I mean, Chilwell can get you attacking returns, but I still think Shaw is the better option to go for. Thoughts on Kane to Isak, Martin to Salah. I'll do it. Even if it's for a hit, I'll do it. I think it's absolutely fine. Then give me 34 Watkins to Alvarez, and Chilwell to Trent. Player 3-5-2. Alvarez is the Man City Alvarez, right? Let me just quickly check if there's anybody else. I don't think so. I mean, if this is the Man City Alvarez, it still feels like you are locking yourself out in terms of your third Man City spot. In case if you've already given up on the third Man City spot because you can't probably pick a nailed defender, you can't pick a nailed attacker. I think that's fine, but I still feel there are points to be gained when either we look at the Man City defense, the double up on Man City defense. I understand that the clean sheet potential may not be very very high, but I'll still take my chances with a better second attacker from Man City. I think you have the likes of Grealish, who's still a better option than somebody like an Alvarez, who may get some minutes, but I don't think so. I mean, anyways, you plan to play a 3-5-2, so I'm assuming you won't be playing Alvarez in it. But I think there are potential other moves that you can make, or other options you can go for. I mean, go for Solanke. I think Alvarez is 6 million. Solanke is slightly cheaper. You go Solanke, or you just go for a Dutch striker. I like me. Maybe somebody like a Greenwood who's 4 million, who's letting you save some money, and maybe you can use that additional 2 million to make some other upgrades, which an Alvarez won't let you do. Chilwell to Trent is fine, but I'm assuming you'll have to raise some money because of the fact that you're downgrading Watkins to Alvarez. I think I'll downgrade Watkins to even cheaper, basically a less price striker, and then have a little bit more money, and then maybe utilize that money as I mentioned. Bruno to Salah, Kane to Isak, or Saka to Rashford, Kane to Jota. I think I'll definitely want Salah, so I think I'm okay doing Bruno to Salah this week, and then Kane to Isak. I think Kane and Isak still looks like the higher potential option this week. And I think Bruno and Salah, you're gonna gain a lot anyways if Bruno doesn't play. Uh, so if you're slightly going aggressive, I think Salah and Isak are really good options to go for. Wildcard team, Edison, Allison. That's the first, I think, red flag. I won't go for Allison, but anyways, we look at the other team as well. Estupinian, Shaw, Trippier, Trent won't double up on the Liverpool defense. Then Zuma. If you're not okay, so you're bench boosting in 34, I'll still probably get in Botman instead of Zuma. I think Botman faces Southampton, much better fixture. Zuma has a double, but I don't think so. West Ham keep a clean sheet in any of those fixtures. Plus March, Mitoma, Rashford, Grealish, Salah. I think double up on Brighton, great. Rashford is basically your United double. I mean, safeguards United double. Grealish, Salah, good options. Haaland, Solanke, Martial again. I mean, I'm not very sure about Martial as well. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, I think Martial may not play, you know, 90 minutes for more. I don't think so. He's going to play anyways 90 minutes in either of the games or in any games because of his fitness and because of the fact that, United does have to, or keep in mind that I mean, he's not a naturally fit player. He's not remained fit the entire season. So I don't expect Martial to suddenly playing 90 minutes for most games. So that's the risk there. I'm going for a player who's not giving me the optimal minutes. That's number one. And even if Martial is playing, I don't think so. I mean, he doesn't look like the player who will give us 15, 20 points, right? That same potential or even higher potential can be maybe given by somebody like an Isak, for example, right? I know he doesn't have a double in 34 or 37, but he does double in 36. Yes, on a bench boost, you would want a double game week player, but if you have a double game week player like a Martial, and he's not even getting close to somebody like an Isak in terms of minutes, I don't think so. It's a conversation to kind of get into because I think Isak, it's Southampton in 34, and I think that's a fair fixture to play or bench boost. I think Southampton are quite leaky. They are not really conceding, they are not keeping clean sheets basically. It's a home fixture for Newcastle where they're traditionally very strong this season. So I think I'll take my chances with an Isak. If you can get to an Isak, I think it still be my preferred option ahead of somebody like a Martial. Plus the fact that I mean I can save on Allison. That can be also one way of making a little bit more cash. I can absolutely play Iverson. I don't have any problems playing him on a bench boost as well. And then I can upgrade a Zuma, sorry, to something like a Botman. I think, as I said earlier, right, Newcastle against Southampton, I think there's that game has clean sheet potential, that game has attacking potential, and I'll rather trust myself going with the second Newcastle option than a Zuma who, I mean, I don't think so West Ham are going to keep clean sheets in that one. Otherwise the overall team looks pretty okay. Bench Kane or Grealish. I'll bench Grealish. I think Kane is still has potential this week. Who did you take out this week? I think I've mentioned that. I took out Kane. I took out Saka, and I took out Chilwell. Those were my three players that I took out. Captain Trippier or Isak. I'll definitely captain Trippier, or maybe not. On second thoughts, I mean, I still don't think so. Everton are going to score, so maybe we're looking at a clean sheet. Maybe if Trippier gets an attacking return, but I still think Isak is a far better or the more superior attacking option. I mean, I don't think so. Then yeah, any doubts about it because of course he's playing as a striker for Newcastle, but I think he's the number one striker. I mean, he's shown Eddie Howe that he is capable of carrying that Newcastle attack, scoring a lot of goals, making them look very dangerous. When they go forward. So I think Isak in terms of minutes pretty much nailed. He may share some minutes with somebody like a Wilson, but I don't think so. Considering Wilson is also a very injury prone player, right? I don't think so. Wilson gets majority minutes anyways in most games. So I think if I'm taking a risk with captaincy, because it's captaincy, it's just not a regular transfer. I think I'll still take my chance with Isak because there is more potential, a higher upside with Isak. You can always get a dodgy result where Trippier loses clean sheet and he's not done anything in attack, and I think that's not going to be great for captaincy potential. So I think Isak will be my captain here. Start two of Eze, Tony, Mings, or Botman. I'll definitely start Tony against Chelsea. I think he has potential. He scored against big teams, and Chelsea just look awful. I mean, don't no disrespect to any Chelsea fans or the Chelsea team in particular, but I think they're not looking like a team right now, and I think Tony can absolutely score against Chelsea. The second option is a bit tricky because you have Eze who is facing Wolves. It's a away game for Eze. It could be a bit tricky. Then again, Mings, Aston Villa against Fulham. Mings, I mean, Aston Villa doesn't really look that they will keep a clean sheet because Fulham are quite an attacking team. Even if it's an away fixture for Fulham, I think they're quite attacking and I think they'll absolutely go for it. So probably I'll go a bit safer here and I'll go Botman because of the slightly better fixture and a more clean sheet potential fixture, if I say that. So it's going to be Tony plus Spotman. I think those two would be my starting options from these picks. David De Gea or Edison Wildcard. I think I've answered this a couple of times. In fact, I'll go Edison and Iverson. Start two: Grealish, Saka, Rashford. I will. I'll start Grealish and Rashford and bench Saka. I know it's not ideal, but I think Grealish can do well against a slightly weaker I mean, I generally do think that Arsenal's defense is weaker than the Man City defense right now. Though in terms of apple to apple comparison, if we're comparing Grealish and Saka in terms of their attacking threat, you'll still want to believe that Saka is the more attacking, the slightly better option. But I think he is facing the slightly tougher defense, so I think I'll go Grealish plus Rashford. Should I play Saka or Kane? Got a feeling that Saka will score against City. If you've got a feeling about Saka scoring against City and maybe Kane blanking, I think go for it. I would play Kane just because of the form that he's in, and he can score goals. And if Tottenham are going to do anything or going to come close to anywhere near that top four positions, I think Kane has to do well, and I think there's a lot of onus on him to do well. So I think I'll still take my chances with Kane. But if you feel that you know Saka maybe gets you a penalty, maybe he scores against City in this one, I mean, you go for him. He can absolutely score. It's just how you're looking at the game and how you're reading this particular game and the United Tottenham game. I think that will kind of make your decisions very clear for you. Bench Grealish or Rashford. I'll play Rashford, bench Grealish. Which three do I start? Trippier, Botman, Shaw, Estupinian, Chilwell. I'll start Trippier. Because of the fact that I can, cover off the Newcastle defense. I think I'll basically go for Trippier, Shaw, and Estupinian. I think I can bench Botman and Chilwell. Not very confident of Chilwell keeping a clean sheet, and I think, again, as I said, I don't really have a lot of faith in the Chelsea team right now, so I'll bench Chilwell. I know benching Chilwell always looks a bit tricky because he can always get you something in attack, but I just don't see that team performing as a team right now, and I have my doubts personally. Starting Grealish or Bruno, I'll start Grealish for sure. Captaincy on Isak over Haaland. I mean, if you're chasing, if you are going aggressive, if you're going for a differential option, I think Isak is a really good option to go for. I mean, Watkins is probably even better if you are going for a differential because of the fixture that he has. I think Fulham is a prime fixture for a lot of goals, and I think yeah, I mean, Watkins is in that sort of form where he can absolutely smash it against Fulham. So I think if you're looking at differentials, I think Isak is great, but I think Watkins is even better. So that's where I will be. But yeah, over Haaland is a risk for sure because you are taking a massive risk against the crowd. Because I still believe that the crowd is gonna go for Haaland in terms of captaincy because I don't think so. A lot of people would want to go very risky in terms of captaincy this week. Anyways, they are taking hits. Anyways, a lot of people are selling their Arsenal options, selling something like a Kane, for example, which could be a disaster for a lot of managers, for us in fact. But I think yeah, I think that's where I will be in terms of captaincy. Kepa, Trippier, Estupinian, Trent, March, Mitoma, Grealish, Salah, Rashford, Watkins, Haaland for a -4, Kane to Greenwood, Martin to Salah. I think there's risk involved, but I'll definitely make these moves. But yeah, this kind of locks you into playing a 3-5-2 in most weeks. In case if you are planning to play with three strikers, then you'll have to upgrade Greenwood to a different option, which will of course require money. And if you don't have that additional money, maybe you'll have to take another hit, maybe make another additional transfer, which may not be ideal for your overall team. But if you're comfortable with the structure of a 3-5-2, with Greenwood just being on the bench, you don't have a bench boost available and all that. I think these moves are absolutely fine this week, even for a hit. Mr. Blanky, you're saying that can you check out my team? If it will be great if you can just mention your team here. Let me just quickly see if you have mentioned your team. No, you haven't. I mean, it'll be just helpful for me if you can just mention your team here, and we can check that out. Tony plays Forest in 34. It could be a haul. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Why not? It could be a good haul, but because the fact that Liverpool does have a double, and it's against Spurs, there are goals in that particular game, so I'm expecting them to do well. Then you have Fulham, right? And Fulham are also an attack first team, so also because the fact that they have two fixtures and the fact that they have two fixtures against teams who will probably not keep clean sheets in general. I think I mean Jota's still the better option to go for. But if you feel that Tony's probably going to cover Jota, I mean it's absolutely fine. That's your rationale, and you stick with it. Hey, what do you think of Isak and Salah in for a -4? Kane and Fernandez out feels a bit. I mean, I don't think so. It's knee jerky because I think Isak is still a good option. Salah is a good option as well. I mean, Salah has proven enough for you to not think it's probably knee jerky. And Isak, since he's returned, and I think overall he's played really well. Now Newcastle is also pushing for top four, right? And I think they would want to score a lot of goals because, of course, that will help them, reach that Champions League spot. And I think with Isak in the team as their number 9, I think there's a lot of potential in the Newcastle attack and Isak as well. Because if Isak is playing as a starting striker ahead of Wilson, he will also be on penalties. That's also a very important factor. And I think it's absolutely fine. I don't think so. It's knee jerky for a -4. It sets you up for 36 as well when Isak has a double. And I think there's potential there as well. So with Fernandes out and Kane not having double game weeks, I think it's fine. It's risky, but if you're going aggressive, slightly aggressive, I think these are good moves to make. Kane to Isak or Jota depends on how you're looking or what option or what's the objective of this particular player. You can go for either. You can make a case for either. Isak doesn't give you a double in 34 or in 37, but does double in 36. But then Jota doubles in 34. So I think you can do Kane to Jota, and then Jota can become Isak in game week 36. That's also a direction you can look at. I think that's what I will be doing most likely, but of course not from Kane. I think Kane has already been downgraded for me to a Greenwood, and then I will do Jota to Isak in game week 36. What transfers did you do this week? What players out in? The transfers that I made were Salah in, Trent in, and Greenwood in. Greenwood is basically a 4 million striker, so I'm basically committing to a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 in most weeks. Basically, two strikers in most weeks. And then the players that I took out were Chilwell in place of Trent. Uh, I took out Saka and I got in Salah. And then I took out Kane because Kane was the cash cow. He was allowing me to get additional money and make these additional moves. And I still have about 1.7 or I think 1.7 million in the bank. And basically Kane out in Greenwood. And those were the moves this week for a -8. It looks a bit risky because of the fact that it may not pay off in 1 week, but I'm not even looking at these moves for 1 week. I am okay committing to playing two strikers. I don't have the bench boost available, so I don't necessarily have to, keep a lot of money invested in a Solanke, for example. I'm okay playing Haaland and Jota, and then moving on to Haaland, Isak, and other options if I am rank chasing or if I'm going a bit aggressive. But I think I'm okay playing five midfielders in most weeks, playing three defenders in most weeks, because I think there are a lot of points to be gained in midfielders, considering the fact that there are doubles for Brighton, doubles for Man City, doubles for Liverpool, doubles for United. So there's a lot of options and a lot of potential there. Should I get a -4 hit? -4 hit for Saka to Rashford. I mean, it depends. To me, the move looks absolutely fine. You're preparing yourself for 34 as well. You're preparing yourself for 37 as well. But yeah, I mean, Saka in general is representing Arsenal, which is a premium attack, still a premium attack right now. I understand that they don't have doubles, but he can very well score against Man City. So you are taking a bit of a risk. And if you're okay with the risk, only then you take a hit. I know a lot of people are thinking that, we'll make the move next week because of the fact that, we don't want to take a hit and Saka can just give me some decent points. In case if you're protecting rank this week, in case if you don't want to take a lot of risk, you keep Saka. But again, I'm looking to play a little bit more aggressive. And I think a -4 hit to Rashford basically from Saka, I think for me it's absolutely fine. Any important fitness team news updates, especially on Bruno and Brighton? We'll quickly check. I mean, let me just quickly check that for you. I hope you can see me now. I think I lost the screen for a second. But yeah, so Robert De Zerbi said that Welbeck has a problem. So I don't think so. Welbeck is going to start. And they also won't take a risk with Ferguson as well. So I think, again, it's very difficult to pronounce this name, but Buonanato, if that's the name. I think I've brutally murdered that name, but I think he's the attacking midfielder. Now he's going to play. Now I think it'll be interesting to see where he plays. I mean, he can play in that attacking position role with the fact that McAllister shifts to maybe a number 9 role, or maybe McAllister can also drop into, deeper in midfield. So I think that's the only change that probably would happen. I still don't expect. I mean, there are not really a lot of options that Brighton can play in that number nine role. So maybe McAllister does shift to that number nine position. I personally don't think so. It's that great for him because he's not a clinical finisher. He's not a natural finisher. But yeah, I mean, from an FPL point of view, we might think that it might be great because he's playing just in front of goal and there's a lot more potential for his goal scoring prospects. But I think overall, yeah, I mean, we could also see Enciso playing as a center forward. I mean, that could also happen. Maybe Undav also is an option who can play in that center forward role. And then that Buonanotte plays in that number 10 role. Maybe McAllister plays next to Caicedo in that number 6 role. And then Pascal Gross plays as a right back, right? So let's see. I think that's probably the only change. Otherwise, I think players like Mitoma and March, they're absolutely fine. Estupinan also absolutely fine from an FPL point of view. With Bruno, I haven't really seen anything in terms of his injury or news in terms of his injury. Let's just quickly see if we can get something. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything in terms of his injury. If you have anything, or if you come across, or if any one of you does have anything in terms of his injury news, or whether he's out for long, etc., please do let me know. The only thing that we saw was that Instagram, picture that his wife posted, and he was wearing a protective boot, and I don't think so. That's great when we're looking at his prospects of starting a game. So I know it's Spurs, but if it's a injury, I don't think so. United can afford to risk him because there are some important games coming up. There are winnable games coming up as well. I know this is also a very important game because it's against a direct top four competitor. But I think it's not looking very very positive. But there's no official or confirmed news in terms of him being out. Tony to Jota. If you're going aggressive, it's a good move. Otherwise, Tony this week is absolutely fine. Why not Arsenal players? I think you should get them back. I mean, I'm okay letting go of Arsenal options because of the fact that they don't have a double. Now you would say that yes, they don't have a double, but they're still a premium attack and they can score goals. It's Man City this week, tough fixture, but they can score absolutely. It's Chelsea next week again. Chelsea, I mean, I still don't think so. They're going to batter Chelsea, but I think they're definitely scoring a couple of goals at least against Chelsea. It's a home fixture for Arsenal as well. And it's Newcastle, Brighton. So they're trickier fixtures. On the other hand, I can maybe get somebody like you know, uh, I can get in Salah, I can get in Rashford. I think they prepare my team for 34 and 37 as well. And I think I'll rather put myself in a position to get more points for the additional fixtures with the slightly better fixtures as well. But yeah, I get the rationale that Arsenal players, it's a risk for sure. And if you're not willing to take that risk, maybe you just get one of the Arsenal attackers in, maybe get a Martinelli, maybe get a Saka. I would still say Martinelli because of the fact that his recent performances have been better. Plus the fact that Martinelli does allow you to save some cash, and then you can of course use that cash and make other upgrades across the pitch, right? So maybe you get in Martinelli, you keep him, but I still feel there is potential or more potential in the Brighton options, in a Salah. Maybe I think Grealish is probably the only spot that you can argue that maybe you can get away with that Grealish spot, and then maybe go for somebody like a Martinelli. Now, in a scenario where there's a lot of rotation among the Man City mids, I think that option can also be great because of the fact that you're getting Martinelli, who's a nailed option, and from the Arsenal attack, who can still score goals. But I think the other options or the other spots are pretty much sold for me. The Madison spot or the Madison spot in my particular team becomes Rashford. So I think double Brighton mids, Rashford, and then Salah are pretty much locked in most of the midfields. And then maybe for the fifth spot, you can maybe argue for an Arsenal option. I'd still take my chance with the Man City mid because of the fact that there's more upside in that. But it's a risk. I can lose out on a lot of points, maybe a lot of rank as well. But that's the risk. And I have decided in my mind that I am comfortable taking with, and let's just see what happens with that. That's all I have to say. Gabriel Jesus or Saka for sure. I mean, yeah, I would still take my chances with a Martinelli. But if your midfield is very packed, I mean, Gabriel Jesus is still okay because of the fact that a lot of us are struggling to find that third striker. Some of us may go for Solanke, some of us may retain Watkins, some of us may just go for a Dutch striker, like let's say like a Greenwood. And if you're that sure that you want to have three good striker options because it'll be very difficult to bench one of Watkins or Gabriel Jesus for most weeks, right? So I think yeah, I mean if you're playing a 3-4-3 for most weeks, if you maybe don't have the best fifth midfielder option, I think there's a case to be made for Gabriel Jesus, but I'll still take my chances with the Martinelli. If at all, I'm taking my chances. Kane and Saka out for Salah plus Isak or Rashford plus Jota. I think Salah plus Isak looks a lot better. It's I think safer than a Rashford plus Jota, and maybe you can do the Jota move next week. But yeah, I mean, if I'm taking out Kane and Saka, I think I'll still get in Saka, Salah plus Isak. I think both options are really good. They have good fixtures this week, good potentials to get a good haul. Still a bit iffy in terms of United. I know it's Spurs and they're very, very bad, very poor defensively. And I think Rashford can do really well. I still have my doubts over Rashford's minutes, his overall performance, and United's overall performance as well. So yeah, and Jota's great. I mean, Jota can absolutely give a tough fight to Salah, but I still think Salah is the far superior option. He's on penalties. His goal contributions are quite high, 50% for Liverpool, slightly higher than 50% for Liverpool, and I think that's going to continue. He's a long-term hold. He's a long-term pick, and I think he is the more popular, the premium pick as well. You can maybe get away with not owning Jota. Yes, you may lose out on some aggressive points that you may gain from Jota, but I think Salah is still the superior pick. Haaland, March, Rashford for Gakpo, Jesus, and Saka for a -8. I'm assuming you are getting in Haaland, March, and Rashford for Gakpo, Jesus, and Saka. You're taking out a couple of Arsenal options, and if Arsenal score 2 or 3 goals against Man City, I think that's going to be a huge loss. But I think Haaland has good potential. His ownership is going to be sky high. Majority active managers, I think, are going to captain Haaland as well. So I think if this is the question of getting these options in, I think I'll definitely want Haaland in my team. I don't care if I'm letting go of any Arsenal options or not, but Haaland, I think, is non-negotiable. I think he is the best option to play. He is the best striker to have. He is the best FPL option to play or to have in your team, and I don't think so anyone can argue that. Bench Gundogan and Saka. I think out of the two options, I'll still bench Gundogan. Saka's still the more attacking option. He's on penalties. I don't think so. Gundogan takes penalties for Man City. I think it's probably going to be Mahrez or Haaland. So I mean, I'm okay or more comfortable benching a Gundogan as compared to a Saka. Bench one, Rashford, March, Mitoma, Salah, Grealish, Watkins, Isak. Very tough call, but if I'm benching one, I'll just do a coin toss and bench one of March and Mitoma. I think all the other options are good options. If you're a little bit iffy about United like me as well, maybe you bench Rashford. I don't think so. He doesn't start this game. I really do think that he needs to start because we need to win this game. But yeah, I think I'll bench one of March Mitoma. I also know that it can go absolutely wrong because both can haul against Forest, or maybe one of the options that you have on your bench can haul against Forest. So in case if you don't want to take that chance, if you feel that you don't want to miss out on any returns from the Brighton options this week because it's definitely a much better fixture than Tottenham. You basically play both. You can also make a case of benching Grealish, but I still think I'll play Grealish this week. So it's basically either going aggressive by maybe benching Rashford for example, or just playing one of your Brighton mids. If I'm playing one of them, I'll play Mitoma and I'll bench March. How about going with Trippier, Botman, and Estupiñán in defense? I think it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Newcastle have a very good potential for keeping a clean sheet this week. It's Everton. I know it's Everton at home and an away game for Newcastle. Newcastle at home are generally a much stronger proposition for keeping clean sheets. I think Trippier and Botman do have potential to keep one this week. I think Everton aren't really going anywhere in terms of their attack or their defense, and I think there's potential for both to give you clean sheet points. Switch Martinelli to Grealish in Game Week 34. You can absolutely do that. You can switch or get in Grealish for the double in 34, and you can maybe even keep him till the double in 37. So that's absolutely okay. Kepa, Raya, definitely Raya. I think more potential for save points. I think if Chelsea do take a lot of shots, I think Raya can make a lot of saves and can also give you a clean sheet that might just end up being a 10-pointer haul. Now, you can make a case for the same for Kepa as well, but I think Brentford and Tony in particular, I think they will score in this fixture. And I think I'm much more comfortable with a Raya clean sheet than a Kepa clean sheet. Chilwell or Shaw or Pinnock. I think out of all these three options, I'll probably go for Shaw. Rashford or McAllister or Watkins. Basically playing two. Again, if you already have a Mitoma, I'll play Rashford and Watkins and then bench, McAllister. I think in general also I'll bench McAllister. There's a high chance that he may play in a deeper role And yes, there is still a possibility of McAllister getting a penalty and getting us some points there, but I think I'm okay taking that risk. So I'll bench McAllister here. Grealish versus March versus Isak, bench one. I'll definitely won't bench Isak. If you have Mitoma, you bench March. Otherwise, you bench Grealish. I think if March is the only Brighton attacker, I think Brighton does have a better fixture than Grealish, and that's the call you take. Hey Jeff, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Me to Trent and Kane to Jota or get in Salah. I think the first preference will still be Salah. As I mentioned earlier, I think Salah is still a far more superior option than a Jota. I don't think so. Jota can cover off Salah. Salah is also on penalties. I think he's going to stay on penalties despite of missing the last couple of pens. Yeah, so I think me to Trent is fine, and I mean, I don't think so. You can do the Salah move. You'll have to make a different transfer. But I think the preference here would still be to get in Salah than a Jota. Which three should I start from Botman, Trippier, Estupiñán, Henry, Shaw? I think I'll start Trippier. Safe option, protects your rank. I'll bench Botman because of the safety net that I have with with the Trippier here. So I'll play Trippier, I'll play Estupiñán, and I think I'll play Shaw and I'll bench Henry. That's what I'll do. Dunk or Estupiñán, I'll definitely Estupiñán. I think both options are nailed. Estupiñán is definitely playing in a much more attacking role. Dunk can also give you some attacking set piece threat, but I think Estupiñán playing in that higher, higher up the pitch or having more attacking opportunities, I think he's the better option. Bench one, Rashford, March, Mitoma, Salah, Grealish, Watkins, Isak. I mean, as I think I've answered this, but I think, yeah, I mean, it's close between a March or a Mitoma and take your pick in that. If you feel that Rashford is probably not going to start, maybe he's not fit enough, etc. I think you bench Rashford. I'll definitely play Grealish in that scenario and play both March and Mitoma also. Otherwise, if you want to start Rashford, if you don't want to take that risk, you bench one of March, Mitoma. I'll probably bench March and play Mitoma. Kane to Jota. Again, in isolation, it's a fine move to make. Nothing wrong with that. Double Villa attack or defense this game week. I think I'll still take my chances with double Villa attack because of the fact that you know you are basically putting them against Fulham. Fulham are a side that do concede a lot of goals, and I think there's more potential for the double Villa attack to do well. The issue is who is the second attacker because I think one of them is definitely going to be Watkins. The second attacker is difficult to pick. The second defender is a lot easier to pick because you can go for Mings plus Moreno. But I don't think so. Villa will keep a clean sheet. So it's basically two defenders of your team not keeping a clean sheet in from one fixture. So I think that's a huge risk. But yeah, it's a tricky call because I necessarily don't see a second Villa attacker who will, give you sure shot points. Would you do Kane to Haaland for a hit? I mean, yeah, for sure. I think Haaland this week as well, even if it's a trickier fixture against Arsenal, I think it's a non-negotiable option. I think you definitely need to have Haaland this week. Thoughts on Kane to Greenwood, me to Trent, Bruno to Salah. I mean, I didn't do something similar, but I did take a hit and I got in similar options. So it was not me to Trent for me. It was Chilwell to Trent, but I think it's a risky option for sure. If you're playing safe, then maybe don't take the additional hit or maybe don't take the -8. Maybe just keep Kane this week. It's against United. He can score. And then you can do the Trent to Salah and even the Kane move next week as well. I mean, you can make a case to make this move next week as well. If you are really going very aggressive, only in that scenario, you make the move, but you understand the risk that you're taking because the fact that, you're letting go of Kane, you're letting go of, I mean, Bruno is okay because I don't think so Bruno is going to play. I think me to Trent is also fine. But yeah, I mean, it's still a risk at the end of it because Kane can absolutely score and you're getting a dud player who's not going to play instead of Kane for a hit. So last 6 game weeks, I'm in top 10 in my league right now, and people are closing in. Can't afford mistakes. What should be my game plan? Take hits and risk, or play conservative. I think you play. You play a little bit safer because you are still in the top 10. I don't know what's the points difference and where you are in that top 10 position. If you're kind of far off from the positions above you, and if you're quite close the positions below you, then you maybe take a little bit of a risk. But if you are in a position where you can, afford to play safe, protect your rank, maybe go a little bit aggressive next week or for Game Week 36 or even for Game Week 37. You maybe do that and don't take a lot of risk this week. Get in one more week of information on a few players and then make your moves for the double in Game Week 34, because of the fact that a lot of people are anyways will be taking a lot of hits for 34. And I think you should be fine taking hits, because I think those hits can easily get recovered with so many good teams having doubles in 34. Bench Botman or Estupinan? I'll bench Botman. I'm assuming you'll play Trippier, so you can play Trippier and Estupinan, bench Botman. By Grealish or Rashford, if you're going safer, I think the higher owned player would be Rashford. If you're going slightly more aggressive, I think Grealish is the better pick. By Raya over Kepa, I think Chelsea. I mean, I'm skeptical about. Skeptical. Sorry, misspoke there. I'm skeptical about Chelsea keeping a clean sheet, and I think Raya can make a few saves, keep a clean sheet in there. And the fact that I don't necessarily trust the Chelsea attack right now, so I'll take my pick over Raya. I mean, go for Raya instead of Kepa. As a City fan, I'm really skeptical about Grealish this week. Just getting a feeling he doesn't return. I mean, if you do get this feeling, if you have that gut feeling, you bench him, sell. I still won't sell him, but yeah, I mean, you can bench him, play your Arsenal attacker or a different option. Is March plus Mitoma instead of Grealish fine? I mean, it's absolutely fine. Maybe slightly better as well, because of the fact that they have a better fixture. I mean, you can always share the risk a little bit, go Grealish, but if you have a feeling about Grealish not doing much this week and maybe blanking, I think you can play March plus Mitoma. Better potential, better fixture, and I think Brighton always has that tendency to spread those attacking returns among different players, right? And it'll be very difficult to predict who's going to return for most weeks. We can maybe say with little bit of certainty that maybe McAllister, when he plays in a slightly deeper role, maybe he doesn't return or doesn't have the same potential as a March or a Mitoma. But I think otherwise it's very difficult to pick. And with both these options playing in 11, I don't think so you're taking any chance, because if any of these players return, you are not keeping any points on your bench. You're just getting them in your 11. So I think it's fine. If I get Grealish in Gaming 34, I'll have a mid of March, Rashford, Salah, Mitoma, Grealish. That's probably the most ideal mid, probably the most template mid as well right now. And I think the more popular mid on a wildcard. Haaland, Tony, Isak would need to sacrifice any one of them. So confused. I mean, I think March plus Mitoma, Rashford, Salah, Grealish. I think it's fine. I mean, I'm still okay sacrificing Tony. Maybe going cheaper, maybe going you know somebody like a Solanke, for example, or maybe you know going Haaland plus Jota and then dead ending that third spot. And I can do Jota to Isak in Game Week 36 for the double in 36. That's also an option. And then you can have Grealish in midfield and keep the same team. Kane out for Jota for an additional hit. Already took a -4. Depends on the risk you're okay taking. It's an aggressive move, but it's a risky move because Kane can score and his ownership is still going to be very, very high. So in case if you want to play safe, in case if you are in a position to where you can, maybe protect your rank, safeguard your position, you do the move next week and not this week. Is Isak in for Solanke worth it? If I have the money in the bank for this game week, I mean, yeah, I think it's worth it. Also depends on what's your plan for 34. I mean, for a 34 bench boost, Isak is also a better option. Plus, he has a double in 36 as well. Solanke doesn't double at all. So I think, yeah, I mean, if there are no other fires to put out, if your team is in okay shape for next week as well, maybe you don't have to take a lot of hits because you have to prioritize Game Week 34 in terms of making your transfers. If you feel that there are probably better options to go for or more high priority moves to make, which will help you in Game Week 34, maybe you save and you don't make this move. Maybe go for those other transfers in Game Week 34. But if you don't, or if you're not in that sort of a position, I think you can basically sell Solanke and get an Isak this week. Odegaard to KDB and Kane to Greenwood and free up money to bring in Trent for Chilwell next week. I think it's absolutely fine. You do it. There's a risk involved with selling Kane. I've always maintained this week that Kane is a risky sell, and you need to understand the risk. You are going aggressive, but you are taking a bit of risk, which could absolutely backfire as well. If you're okay with that, do the moves this week. You free up a little bit money and make or get in Trend next week. In general, I think in isolation, the Kane downgrading to a Greenwood, to a Jota, to maybe an Isak, or even something like a Solanke is probably going to be a lot more popular next week as well, because I think a lot of people will start taking a lot more hits next week, considering it's a double and people can actually get away with taking hits. Hi Lisa, hello to you. Would you play Botman or Chilwell alongside Trippier and Estopinian and Kepa? I think I'll still take my chances. I mean, when you have already got your Chelsea, option covered in Kepa, I think Kepa also doesn't keep a clean sheet, but there is potential for saves in there, and I think I'll take my chances with doubling up on Newcastle defense because they have the slightly better fixture. It's an away game, but I still believe that Newcastle are a very strong defense, way better than a Kepa Chilwell or basically a Chelsea defender. I understand that Botman is not going to give you the attacking threat that you can get with the Chilwell. So even if Chilwell doesn't keep a clean sheet, he can actually give you some attacking returns. But personally, I'm not very high on the Chelsea defense, on Chelsea as a team overall, and I think they can bottle it up this week. Uh, Nothing to play, right? Nowhere to look. I don't necessarily see any plan for Chelsea, any fixed team as well. Can't really say what's going to be the starting 11. I mean, Lampard could absolutely do anything he wants, so not very confident there. I'd play Botman with Trippier and Estupinian. Bruno out for Grealish, I think it's fine. Any idea if Bruno would be free for the double, would be available or fit for the double, sorry. Uh, Not sure right now. I'll also quickly check again, but I'm not sure if we have any confirmed news. I don't think so. The presser was before the deadline. I'm not sure though. I may have missed it completely, but I don't think so. There's any confirmed news about Bruno missing out or Bruno not being available. I mean that's the worry we have. That's you know the blank space we have in terms of information or not having that information. But I think selling Bruno, I think it's fine. Which one to bench, McAllister, Kane, or Martinelli? If you have a Mitoma playing already, maybe you can spread the risk a little. I mean, it's not even risky, but maybe you can take a chance by benching McAllister and then maybe playing your Mitomas and marches of your team. Kane, Martinelli, I think both are I mean, tricky fixtures, but they can absolutely score. They have been doing well for their respective teams, and I think if McAllister plays in a slightly deeper role, I'm okay benching him. So I think my pick could still be McAllister out of all these three options. Kane for Jota this week, or hold and get two transfers for the double game week and decide with more info. I mean, the sound of the more logical move is basically saving and having more information, making sensible moves next week. But it's safer. I mean, again, it may or may not be boring for a lot of people, but it's safer for me. I'm okay going a bit aggressive. Jota has a decent fixture. I mean, he can do really well this week. If Liverpool and Jota do really well this week, I think Jota is going to be an even more popular option next week. And the advantage that you get from a Jota will be slightly reduced, right? So in case if you want to go aggressive, you take that leap of faith. You are going risky by selling Kane. Please understand that. But I think Jota can rival Kane for points this week. Absolutely, he can. And that's the aggressive move. That's a risky move. If you don't want to do it, you save the transfer. You get more information and do the move next week. I mean, replace Kane with Jota or hold for two transfers. That's what I mentioned. Safer is basically holding, having more information. The more aggressive is Jota, and letting off Kane. I will still do the Kane to Jota move. Should I sell Tony and for who? I mean, Tony is not a necessary sell this week because it's Chelsea and they can concede. But if you are but I think if you are looking to replace Tony, I mean, there are a lot of options to go for. If you have some money, I think you can go for Jota. If you want to downgrade the option to Tony or from Tony to a different option, you can go for Isak. I think he's also a good pick. He prepares your team or your striker spots for game week 36 double as well. Plus, I think he's in good form. Newcastle are playing for top four. There's a lot more positives in going for an Isak right now. Or in case if you want to just save money, maybe you have a bench boost available. If you do, you can go for Solanke as well. He will also allow you to save some additional money over an Isak or definitely over a Jota. Then you can use that additional money elsewhere. Because if you're getting locked out of certain moves, you can actually gain some money from this particular move and then use that elsewhere. If you have a certain plan of maybe dead ending the spot, maybe just going with a dud striker and then going with a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 for most weeks. You can also sell Tony for somebody like a Greenwood, for example. He's 4 million, the cheapest striker option. Of course, don't expect him to get minutes, don't expect him to play at all. But yes, he's definitely giving you a lot more money than your other options as well. And maybe that helps you get towards a trend. Maybe that helps you get towards the Salah. If if that really is a possibility, I mean, you can do that as well. Insane work, by the way, bro, as usual. Thank you so much. Thank you, the lovely comment. Thank you again. I'm having benching headaches. I mean, we are all having a lot of benching headaches this week. These are right decisions for my team. Kepa, Trippier, Estupinian, Botman, Mings, Medoma, March, Rashford, Kane, Watkins, Haaland, captain. Your bench is Raya. I mean, look at that bench. Raya, Saka, Fernandes, and Shaw. That's a massive, massive bench. I think personally, I feel that Raya has a slightly higher chance of keeping a clean sheet. But if you feel that Chelsea, being a premium team, and if they can keep a clean sheet, I think you keep your faith with Kepa. But I think my money would be on Raya keeping a clean this week. In terms of then spreading the risk, I mean, you can basically bench Botman because of the limited upside that he gets you. Maybe he gets a clean sheet, but he doesn't really offer you anything in attack. And if you want to play a little bit more safer as well, you can basically play Saka because his ownership is going to be high. A lot of people are not going to sell Saka because they feel that Saka probably is a better sell next week. And if you're playing a little bit safer, you basically take out Botman, you get in Saka. That kind of takes care of the ownership, takes care of any points that he gets, and basically would not make your team lose a lot of points or a lot of ranks. So I think that's the only change. Otherwise, March, Mitoma, I think Mings is again. I think I still take my chances with not playing with either I'll. Uh, I mean, Botman and Mings can absolutely be changed to basically a Trippier, Estupinian, and and a Shaw, for example. And then for the additional player that you've kept on the bench, you can get in Saka. So basically, play a back three and not a back four, and then take a little bit of a risk with. I mean, yeah, a little bit of risk with one of your attackers, and try to catch a haul if they can get you a haul. Feeling a Madison captaincy punt. I mean, it's a punt for sure. Even if Leicester score, it's looking like Iheanacho is gonna get the most goals. I mean, with Madison, you always will get good underlying stats. He will be a lot more creative. He will create a lot of big chances for the likes of Madison, Vardy, or whosoever's playing in attack. But yeah, it's a punt. I still would take my chances with the Watkins or with an Isak, for example. They both have better fixtures. I won't say better fixtures, but they're probably better prospects because the fact that they are talismanic figures in their teams. So you can argue that James Madison's also probably the most important player in that Leicester lineup. But I still feel Watkins in the form that he's in, Isak in the form that he is in. If you have these players in your teams, I think they're better punts to go for rather than a Madison. I understand the fixture, but I think it's still a bit out there. I think there's still better options. Should I sell Watkins, Tony, and Jesus to bring in Haaland, Isak? I think I'll still bring in Haaland, and if I can do that move by selling in Gabriel Jesus, maybe a Tony, maybe I think I'll do that. Basically, you can sell Tony and Jesus, and then you can get in Haaland and Isak. I think it does give you two double game week players for 34, for 37 as well. You are taking a slight risk by selling, decent options this week. I mean, Tony and Jesus can absolutely score this week, so you are taking a bit of a risk. I won't sell Watkins for sure because Watkins does have a prime fixture this week. And as I just mentioned, he's also a great alternative captaincy option. But I think, yeah, Haaland has to be brought in this week for sure. And I would probably do the Isak move as well, prepare my team for 36 as well. I think it's absolutely fine. These are aggressive moves. So, in case if you want to go safer, and if you have the money to directly do a Jesus to a Haaland or a Tony to a Haaland, I'll still do Tony to Haaland maybe. But I'm assuming you might not have the money and you can get an Isak to basically balance the books. Bench one, Saka Grealish. I personally feel Saka has a slightly tougher defense to play against, and I think Grealish can do well against the slightly weaker Arsenal defense. So I'll take my bets on Grealish, but I think the better attacker you could argue is Saka overall for the season. Yeah, I think if you're playing safe, let me just put it that way. If you're playing safe, if you don't want to take a lot of risk, in case if you are, worried about the ranks or the rank loss, basically a Saka can give you, and you are in a position where you are pretty comfortable with rank, maybe in your mini leagues as well, and you don't want to take a lot of chances, want to protect rank, I think you go Saka. Otherwise, you go the aggressive move is basically Grealish. Start Kane or Watkins, start Chilwell or White. Out of Kane or Watkins, I'll still start Watkins. May not be a very popular option. I mean, Watkins in general is a popular option, but yeah, between the two, you can argue that Kane is maybe a more safer option. That's absolutely fine and absolutely right. But I think Watkins just has better potential this week. Start Chilwell or White. I mean, I don't want to start Chilwell, but I think if it's the option between the two, I'll still with a very heavy heart, I'll start Chilwell because I think White and Arsenal will definitely concede. Only route to Salah and Trent is selling Fernandes, Tony, and Chilwell. Thoughts? I think I don't have a problem with that route at all. Fernandes may not be fit for 34. I mean, Tony is a fine sell, and I think Trent is definitely better than Chilwell. So I think it's fine. You get in Salah, you get in Trent, and then you basically sell Fernandes, Tony, and Chilwell. If I want a United defender for Game Week 34, whom should I take rather than playing Zuma? I mean, if you want to go cheaper, maybe you can go Dallo. I don't think so. He's gonna lose his place though. I think he's fine. The better pick is definitely Luke Shaw. So if you don't have Luke Shaw and if you're looking for a United defender, I think Luke Shaw is the better option to go for. Though Shaw is 5.1, I think, yes, and he's also more slightly higher owned. With Dallo, there's a slight risk in terms of him maybe getting a rest, but I still think that he's okay for minutes. So if you want to save some money, see the argument here is that Shaw may play in a centre back role, but that limits his attacking potential. But that does really spell good for him, especially when you talk about bonus points, right? Because now he'll be in a position to make more passes, more accurate passes, maybe play in more balls as well. Yes, that assist potential will kind of drop, but I think he can cover that off with those bonus points, especially if I keep a clean sheet and if they are if it's a very close sort of a game. So I think that's the argument for sure. But I think if you're just saving in money and if you're just looking at clean sheets, I think Dallo's okay. Maybe that additional 0.4 million that helps you, make certain upgrades or get to a certain player, which is probably not happening right now. In that scenario, you do a Dallo. If that's not a scenario, that's not a situation, money is not a problem. I think Shaw is still the better option to go for. Kane to Salah on a free transfer, I think I'll do it. Risky again because Kane can also haul, but I think there's some points to be gained with Salah. I understand that Liverpool aren't really the best team this season, especially in their away fixtures. Their away performances have been a bit disappointing, but I think since the last few game weeks, since Trent has also changed or his position has also been changed, now he's playing in a slightly midfieldish sort of a role where he's getting into more central positions. He's having more of the ball. I think Salah's positioning has also changed. His overall performances have also gotten better with the introduction of Jota as well. I think Liverpool are doing well. You can argue that the home fixture form versus the away fixture form and all that stuff. I just feel is a slight upside in going with Salah. I think there are points to be gained, there are ranks to be gained before him becoming a very popular option or maybe slightly popular option in gaming 34 because if he is hauling, there's absolutely no chance that majority matches are not going for Salah. They're not selling Kane next week because of course Kane is not giving you a double. Salah is giving you a double. His ownership could be a threat and all that stuff. Maybe you just avoid all that. You take that risk 1 week prior, and then of course you're getting the advantage anyways next week. So I think I'll take my chances and I'll do the Kane to Salah move. I thought of Dallo, but he's not consistent. I mean, he's not consistent, but I think for more than consistency in terms of performances, I think I'm a little bit more skeptical in terms of his minutes. So I still think he's gonna get majority minutes, and I think if, as I said, right, if money's not a problem, I'll take my chances with the Shaw. Isn't Haaland captain a little risky? I don't think so. I think Haaland captain, in fact, is a safer option to go for. Haaland's captaincy EO, which is the effective ownership, basically the total number of people having Haaland in their team and captaining. That's the summation of that. I think that's going to be still maybe 150, 160, something like that. And I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in Haaland. He is facing the weaker defense, the slightly weaker defense between both Arsenal and Man City. Saliba is not there. They haven't kept Arsenal have not kept a clean sheet since Saliba has been injured, and I don't expect them to keep a clean sheet in this game. So I think Haaland's absolutely fine. I think he can do a lot of damage. So I don't think so. He's risky. In fact, he's a much safer option to go for in terms of captaincy. Should I transfer in Grealish for Rashi? I don't think so. I'll do that for a hit. No, I personally don't think so. I think Rashford can do well against Tottenham. A little bit tricky, yes, because the fact that United has played 120 minutes in the FA Cup game. Rashford in particular didn't look that great. So, I mean, there is a slight scope of maybe Grealish outscoring Rashford, but Grealish also does have a trickier game. Yes, it's Arsenal. Yes, it's a slightly weaker defense. Yes, they've not kept clean sheets, but when we look at Man City and their attack, I think the standard option is somebody like a Haaland, right? So I still think I won't take a hit for the same move. It's surprising how majority are going for Haaland captaincy when Brighton play Forest. The reason majority are going for Haaland captaincy is because the fact that everybody is shit scared. I'll be honest. Everybody is scared that Haaland is massively gonna, make a lot of dent into their rank. A fair few managers have, made significant gains in the last few weeks, especially on a free hit. I think a lot of managers did gain a lot of points, and I don't think so. A lot of people are gonna take that risk. So it's a safer, sensible move. If you're chasing, if you're going aggressive, if you feel that Haaland is definitely gonna blank, because see, we yes, there you can argue that Salah has been doing this for seasons and seasons, and maybe Haaland still doesn't come to that FPL royalty in terms of him being the best FPL asset. But this season, I don't think so. You can argue that Haaland has not been the best FPL asset. We've seen that he can play 60, 70 minutes. I don't think so. He's going to do that against Arsenal. I think he does play the 90 minutes unless Man City really walked over Arsenal by scoring 4 or 5 goals. I think there is potential for Haaland to, score in any game, right? Whether it's Arsenal, whether it's United, whether it's any top team or a bottom team or whichever team. I think Haaland, I mean, we've already seen that Haaland has that potential. So I don't think so. A lot of people are okay taking that risk, and that's why they're going safer. I know there's Brighton who's playing Forest, there's Watkins who's playing Fulham, then there is Isak who's playing Everton. So there are potential gains to be made, but I don't think so. A lot of people have the heart to go without Haaland in terms of captaincy this week. Who should I captain this week? Salah or Rashi? Out of both, Salah for sure. I mean, I don't think so. Rashford is getting benched, but and you could argue that maybe Tottenham is a much weaker defense than West Ham right now. But I think both have away fixtures. I think both can score well, and I think I still prefer Salah. I think he's still the better option. Brighton captaincy risk. I mean, that's the risk that you take for sure because they have played 120 minutes. There could be rotation, though I'm not expecting March and Mitomo to get rotated. I still think they're gonna play or they're gonna start at least. Kane or Jota. The higher upside aggressive pick is Jota. The safer move is to keep Kane this week, make the move next week maybe. Haaland, Watkins, Isak, or Haaland, Jota, Solanke, and why. I'm thinking to play the first one this game week, then substitute to second next game week. I'm also on a wild card. I personally don't think so. There's a need to substitute. I mean, yes, you're letting go of Watkins. That's a risk again. You're going for the higher aggressive move. I'd rather do the Haaland, Jota, Solanke move. The reason is that probably I'm saving an additional transfer here because I don't have to then take out Watkins and then maybe basically the first option is making me take out Watkins. I mean, you can go for Jota. Yes, you do have Isak, but I can rather than that save a little bit money here. I can do Haaland, Jota, and Solanke. I just do the math if it is actually saving some money, and then I can basically do Jota to Isak, keep Solanke on the bench. I mean, from a fixture point of view, Watkins Isak definitely looks like the better combination. But I think if I'm on a wild card, I think I'm okay going Haaland, Jota, and Solanke, and then shifting Jota to Isak for game week 36. I mean, it's also the fact, right, that there may be other fires to put out, there may be other potential moves to make. And if that is the scenario, then that's basically taking additional hit for that or hit for this particular move, right? So I'd rather just avoid that. Keep Jota for 34, 35, and then make the move to Isak. If you feel that Isak is probably a better option than Solanke, and you probably want to go aggressive here, you do that, and then you do the switches. But I think I personally would stick to the second option and do the Jota to Isak switch to for the 36 double for Newcastle. Vice captain Isak or Watkins? I think Watkins is absolutely fine. I'm assuming the captaincy here would be on Haaland. Don't think so. He's gonna get benched or he's gonna not start against Arsenal. I think it's a title deciding game, and I think vice captaincy, especially when the captaincy is on Haaland, is probably not gonna matter too much. But I'll still do it on Watkins. Great fixture against Fulham. High potential to score a lot of points, and I think he should be okay this week. Madison or Buendia this week? Madison. I mean Buendia, if I have not pronounced that name wrongly. He's an okay option because of the fact that he's playing for Villa and Villa are facing Fulham this week, so there is potential to get points, but it's not that Bundia is a premium sort of an asset or a player who's definitely going to do well or definitely going to be among the points when Aston Villa are scoring a lot of goals. The clear talisman there is Watkins. He's going to hog most of the big chances. He's going to get most of the goals. He's also on penalties. So I think I'll still take my chances on a Madison. I know we've been all burnt by the Madison transfer because he's hardly done anything for us. He's gotten those blanks, which was very very frustrating. But I still think I mean I don't have faith in both defenses in Fulham and Leeds, but I just feel Leeds is a far worse defense, and I think Madison versus Leeds could finally give us some points. So I'll take my chances there. Jota, I've mentioned this. Aggressive move is Jota. I'll do Jota. But if you want to play safe, protect rank, you keep Kane, play Kane. Also, dunk Estupinian or Estupinian Y. Estupinian is playing in a slightly more advanced role, of course. You can get some attacking threat with a dunk. Uh, Both give you, of course, the same clean sheet points. I'm not very confident of Brighton, anyways, keeping clean sheet points. But if there's a conversation between the two, I think I'll still take my chances of maybe Estupinan, giving us attacking returns, especially in terms of assists. Dunk can also score from set pieces, but I still think Estupinan, provides us with regular attacking threat, which a Dunk may not do that, right? When we look at Dunk, I mean, the price for both is the same, 4.8, 4.8. So you're not really, gaining anything from going for one of the picks rather than the other option. But I think Estupinan just has better, assist potential. You can argue that maybe Dunk has a slightly higher goal threat overall, but I don't think so. It's that high or high by a huge margin, and I'd rather take my chances with consistently getting into that position and giving me a chance to get an assist or get in those extra 3 points rather than maybe a goal in 4 or 5 games, right? So that's probably my explanation of going with Estupinian over a Dunk. Both are nailed options. I don't think so. Minutes is going to be an issue there. Eze or Olise, Eze has had more goal threat, and I think that's been continued. He's also unlucky not to get that. I mean, not unlucky, but yeah, he could have got that winner also in the blank game week 32 game. I still like Eze because of the fact that he has direct goal threat. Yes, he's been overperforming his goal numbers and expected goal numbers, but I still think he's the better option. Olise is slightly safer because of the fact that he's more creative and he does carry some or little goal threat, but I still take my chances with Eze. If I'm going for one, I think it was maybe a punt to go on a free hit, maybe not otherwise, because they're much better midfielders to go for. I mean, you have the Brighton mids, you have Salah, you have Grealish, you have Rashford. If you're playing safe, then you have the Arsenal mids as well. So I think there are a lot of midfielders competing for those, five midfield spots. And I think, I mean, unless you really, really want to go differential, you go Eze. Otherwise, yeah, I'll look elsewhere. Kane to Haaland going to free hit next week. I think you do Kane to Haaland anyway. I mean, whether free hitting, no free hitting, because you would want Haaland in game week 35, 36, and then 37 double as well. And I don't think so. He's gonna, maybe he gets benched in one of those games, depending on the game state, depending on how the league is and whether Man City are cruising, whether it's still close, whether it's Arsenal leading, and all that stuff. I think you have to get in Haaland. I mean, I don't think so. A Kane can cover off Haaland because I don't think so. Kane's ownership is going to be more than 100%, whereas Haaland's ownership is definitely going to be more than 100%. Not having him is going to be very very disastrous if he gets a couple of goals, and I think it's going to be chaotic. So just avoid that chaos, just avoid that madness. Just go safe here. It's not a position to take a lot of risk and get in Haaland. What about Watkins? You play Watkins if you have him. May not be the. I mean, you can still lose out on rank. If you don't have him. So I think there's a decision to be made here whether you want him or whether you want somebody like a Jota, for example, somebody like an Isak, for example, who do have doubles, in 34 and 36. If you're playing safe, and if you don't want to, take a lot of risk, if you want to protect your rank loss, I think Watkins is definitely a must-have. He's a great option this week, a great fixture this week. I've mentioned earlier in the stream, he's a great alternative captaincy option as well for Game Week 33. So I think if you have him, you play him. If you don't have him, then it gets a bit trickier because then you have to take a call whether to, go safe with him, get him this week, waste that one transfer, and then maybe you take him out next week and you anyways get in a Jota. So rather than that, just take this one on the chin, get in Jota a week earlier, or maybe somebody else if you try to get an Isak, etc. And then you move on with that. I don't have any Liverpool cover. With Money in the Bank, I can do Chilwell to Trent or Kane to Jota. I mean, Jota is still the higher upside pick because Liverpool can always concede, not keep a clean sheet. Jota is a streaky player. We've already seen that. He does tend to, get on these runs where he's scoring a lot of goals. I think looks like an option who is nailed to start, though he can always get that odd benching. I mean, there's a risk involved there for sure. I still feel Jota is a higher upside pick. And if you have money in the bank, if you want some Liverpool cover, you do Kane to Jota this week. It's a risk because Kane is highly owned, and I think despite of so many people selling Kane, I still think his ownership is going to be decently high. And he's been the most consistent option apart from Haaland generally, right, in FPL. And I think he can definitely score. So there's a little bit of risk that you are taking, but that's the aggressive move that you take. If you're playing safe, keep Kane. Otherwise, just go to Jota this week. Yeah. Hey Petson, hey Zaids Petson. Hello to you. I hope you're doing great. Out of these players, who are the two that you would bench? Botman, Saka, Madison, Kane, Grealish, March. I'll definitely bench Botman because I'm assuming you'll have Trippier. I'll play Madison for sure because he has decent upside. And then it's a decision between one between Saka, Kane, Grealish, and March, right? You play Madison, that's fine. I'll still play Kane because the fact that he can hurt my rank, and I would probably go if I'm having Kane, I'll play him for sure. I won't bench him. So that's basically two players that you're playing. You need one more bench option, so it's Saka, Grealish, and March. I think March has good potential this week. If you already have a Mitoma, maybe you can afford to bench March, but I still think I'll take my chances with the Mitoma plus March combination. I think you can bench one of Saka or Grealish. Saka is a slightly better option overall in terms of FPL, but I think Grealish has the better matchup in terms of facing the weaker defense. So I think I'll if you're going safe, you play Saka because Saka will be much highly owned, and if you're going aggressive, you go Grealish. I think that's what you do. I'm also captaining Isak to make a big jump or catch a big L. Let's see what happens. I think Isak is a good option, a good alternative captaincy option this week, and I don't think so. You're going wrong there. It's risky and aggressive for sure, but I think it's a good shout. Start Grealish or Fernandez. I'll start Grealish. Sorry. Is there a chance of Shaw and Dallo both playing Game Week 34? I think they can. It depends on who plays in the center back position as well. So if it's, I still think they can play because I think Shaw plays ahead of Malacia if he's fit. I think Dallo also plays ahead of Van Bissaka. But yeah, I mean Dallo Van Bissaka is a bit tricky to call. I think Shaw versus Malacia still, it's still maybe a slightly easier call. And I think yeah, there is a chance that both of them play in Game 34. But if basically going with Shaw, you're not having money for Grealish, then you have to take that decision whether you really, really want Grealish. If you do want Grealish, you go Dallo and take that slight risk. The safer option is, of course, to play Shaw and maybe look for an alternative. But I think the alternative you would probably then get is maybe a Martinelli, for example, which again may not be the ideal option because the fact that he doesn't double in. Yes, he's safe because he's covering ownership, but I think people will start selling the Arsenal options for before 34 and before the game week deadline. So I think yeah, I mean, you go a little bit risky, and that's a call you take whether you want Grealish or not. If you want him, Dallo plus Grealish is fine. You think Estupinian Dunk will play 90 minutes in all matches? I mean, I'm if you are talking about both these options, I'm still a lot more comfortable about Dunk playing majority minutes. Estupinian maybe gets a little bit of rest, but I think both options are good, and I think they're safe to start. I can say that much. What to do with Odegaard? Worth selling. I think they're better options to go for. Play Diaz or Shaw. Um, Tricky is. I think I'll play just by a little bit. I think I'll play Shaw. I'll bench Diaz. I mean, it's actually a coin toss. You could go either way, but I think I'll bench Shaw. I'll play Shaw. Sorry. Also, do you think Johnston will play for Crystal Palace? Guaita is back in the matchday squad. He may very well start this week. I don't think so. I mean, there's a considerable amount of risk with Johnston in that goalkeeper position. Start Grealish or Tony. Safer is again Tony because I think he'll have a higher ownership than Grealish. I think if you're looking at matchups, also I think Tony against Chelsea could do really well. Start two between Rashford, Martinelli, Shaw, and Botman. One defender, one midfielder. I think I'll start Shaw because I'm assuming you'll have Trippier, and I will start Rashford and I'll bench Martinelli. So it's basically the double United options. In case if you want to share that risk a little bit, you go Martinelli plus Shaw, but I'll definitely start Shaw ahead of Botman. Play Isak or Grealish. I'll play Isak, much better fixture, great potential against Everton. Should I bench Mitoma or March for Solanke? I don't think so. You need to bench either of them. I think yes, Solanke is playing Bournemouth and he can score, but I think both Mitoma and March have good fixture or have a good fixture this week. I think you can play both. start Grealish or Tony. I think I've answered this. You start Tony. I think better fixture. Chelsea are a bit of a weird team to predict right now, and I think it's fine. Me, Akanji or White for defender. Me, Akanji or White for defender. I think if you're selling one, you sell White. If you're playing one, you play. I think Akanji is fine. Should I bench Mitoma March? I think I've answered this. Isak or Rashford? Go. I think Isak better. Share or Botman? You play. I think you play Botman. Share is maybe carrying a knock. Play Pinnock, Botman or Shaw. I think I'll play Shaw. Yeah, guys. A minute to go. Please, just save your team, save your captaincy, and just make sure that you complete your transfers. I mean, there's always a chance that the website can crash. But yeah, I think we're almost to deadline. If you have any more questions, last minute, maybe a few seconds left, and you maybe can pick in a or get in a question in there. If you can, please feel free to add that. That's deadline, guys. That is the deadline. All the best for game week 33. It was not a stressful deadline, but there were a lot of questions. But I hope I was able to answer all your questions. I hope that whatever your decision you've taken with respect to Kane, with respect to your Arsenal options, with respect to your Liverpool options, whether you've got them in this week or not, let's just hope that they all fall in the right place. A lot of managers have taken hits. It's not a wrong strategy. It's just an aggressive strategy. A lot of managers are planning to take hits next week, which is also absolutely fine. But yeah, that's what it is. Thank you so much again for joining. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do that. We do this every week. We've been doing this for the whole season. We've done a lot of content. If you've not checked out our blog, please feel free to check that out as well. It's insanelyfootball.com. You can check out our Instagram page as well. There's a lot of content that generally goes out. A lot of good stuff that you may not want to miss out. Right. With that, I think we'll call it a night. Went for Botman over Shaw. I think it's fine. I think this would be a doubling up in terms of your Newcastle defense. I think it's fine. If you have a feeling about Botman and him keeping a clean sheet, I think it's not a wrong assumption or a wrong direction to look at. But yeah, that's it, guys. I will see you now before the Game Week 34 deadline as well. I think some decisions to be made there. I think there'll be some wildcard drafts coming out. There will be some transfer tips also coming out. A lot of other stuff also coming out as well. I may not do the pod, which is the weekly pod that we do. Wasn't able to do one because of the short turnaround time for Game Week 33. But there'll of course be a pod episode for Game Week 34. Might take that out or might come up with that on a Friday morning. So do look out for that as well. That will give you a much more detailed account of the whole game week and how to approach in case if you have any chips left, how to plan all those chips as well. So do look out for that as well. Of course, it'll be posted on multiple platforms, and you can check out our Twitter page and Instagram page for all of that good information. So that'll be all. Thank you so much again for joining. Have a good week, and I hope that you get a lot of good green arrows. And yeah, that's about it. Your final team, Nigel, is Johnston, Trippier, Botman, Estupinian. I mean, I would have still gone for something like an Iverson, but I think it's fine. Trippier, Botman, Estupinian is absolutely okay. March, Salah, Mitoma, Martinelli. So we went without Grealish. That's fine. I mean, yeah, my head is still into not going for Tony and maybe going for a Jota or an Isak. Isak you already have in your team. Maybe then in this case maybe a Solanke and then getting to a Grealish. But I think that's fine. Everybody plays their own game, not a single way of playing FPL. No way of playing FPL is the wrong way of playing FPL. You should be happy with your way of playing FPL, right? All the best to you, Nigel, as well. All the best to all of the others as well. Have a good week. Do watch a lot of the football. I think it's going to be some really exciting games. Really looking forward to the Arsenal game as well, and of course, Man City Arsenal. It's going to be a title deciding game, and I think it's going to be. Let's see what happens in that game, and whether it's a KG game or whether it's a high octane attacking sort of a game. Let's see. Let's hope that it's a good game to watch, and I think it'll be a good week. I played Kepa over Raya and Ben Me on the bench. Would regret if Brentford get a clean sheet. I mean, yeah, it's a risk, but that's the decision you've taken. And yeah, just wait for the matches, just wait for the result to happen, and I think you will be fine. Great, guys. With that, I will take your leave. I will be back again before the Gaming 34 deadline. I'll post a timing sector of the stream. It's generally going to be a couple of hours before the deadline. So do make sure that you join us for that as well. As always, if you've not subscribed to the channels on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, please feel free to do that as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye.